Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for coming back to the second half of day 4 of the state of Colorado versus Letecia Stauch. So real quick before they come back, they're still on their lunch break, and as soon as they come back and start talking, we'll be able to hear them. Let me recap this morning for you. The first witness was Kelly Smith. She was a crime scene tech for the Santa Rosa County, Florida Sheriff's Office at the time Gannon went missing. And during her testimony, they brought in the suitcase that Gannon was found in. And she also...
All right, court will call 20 CR 1358, People versus Leticia Stauch. Record should...
All right, I'll recap during the lunch or the afternoon recess, you guys. Hi, Deanna. Thank you so much for being here again. I appreciate you.
Cameras up too. Yeah. That guy's supposed to be here. Right. Okay. All rise for the jury, please.
If you didn't catch this morning, they had some pretty good witnesses, and we learned a few things that we didn't know previously. They brought in the suitcase. They said they couldn't bring in the pillowcase because it had such an awful stench to it. So they weren't able to bring that into the court.
Court will recall 20 CR 1385, People versus Leticia Stauch. I'm sorry, 1358, People versus Leticia Stauch. Record should reflect the jury has returned to the courtroom. Mr. Allencar, next witness, please.
Thank you, Judge. Actually, our next exhibit is People's Exhibit 211, which defendants is stipulating to admissibility of 211. And then we were asking for permission to publish People's Exhibit 211 to the jury. For record purposes, this is body-worn camera audio of Deputy Parker that was collected on the evening of January 27, 2020, when he, along with Deputy Yunkin, who we heard from yesterday, responded to 6627 Mandan Drive in response to the missing child report that the defendant made.
Defense, do you stipulate as to the foundational elements that have just been recited by the prosecution? Okay. All right. Exhibit 211 will be admitted.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Permission to publish, Your Honor?
Yes, you may.
Out here about 4 o'clock.
It's this one. You have your notepad? Yeah. You have your big notepad?
Big one?
Yeah.
Bye.
Recording. Mounted. Wi-Fi connected.
Hi.
Hey, can we come in?
Okay. That's just like,
Sorry, my shoes are a little muddy.
you guys are busy tonight, huh?
Yes, unfortunately, sorry, we took us on. I mean, we go by priority and, I mean,
Well, the neighbors have been awesome, so
Yeah.
they helped out.
and they could probably do more than we,
Yeah,
I mean, we
that's what
we got two bodies, so.
Exactly. That's what I was telling my husband anyway, because he was upset. And I was like, honestly, the neighbors have already pretty much done a lot of the work.
Yeah. There's a ton of them out there.
We did find, someone did send us a video picture or something, and he was holding his Switch case.
Is what?
Like his Switch, like a Nintendo Switch.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Not like a Switch.
I was like, I don't know.
So they've all been trying to be very like helpful and the whole situation, because so he was supposed to be here at 6 o'clock because we were going to eat dinner.
Mhm.
And he said he was off restriction today. So he was going to go play with his friend. And his dad already told him he could play with his friend. And he didn't come back at 6. So I looked outside and saw it was sleeting, So I said, well, maybe he's waiting on one of us to come get him,
Mhm.
So we drive to the neighbor's house, which I'm assuming he's at the neighbor's on the corner's house. And they're like, no, he's not here. So I was like, okay, maybe it's only one other person. So they kept leading us on all this chase of people who it could be. And
Mhm.
we covered a lot of houses. And at this point, the neighbors all stepped in and kind of went to the houses ourselves. And because they told me to wait here, and she went to a bunch.
Okay.
But sorry, I've been like freaked out the whole time. To add to it, I'm almost positive he is with someone that he knows,
Mhm.
because he searched on his phone, can my parents find me if my iPhone is, or if my phone is off?
Mhm.
He also, and I'll let you look at this, sent my husband some crazy stuff that was like, it was like, so he sent my husband a message that says, do we have any bath salt? And then my husband said, for a while, asked me. And then, because my husband didn't think, like what he was talking about. And it says, my friend said, if I get some, we could play. And he has a Sonic there this
Mhm.
weekend. Because he's big into like Nintendo Sonic.
Yeah, right.
And then my husband said, no. So then he said, can we play today if my tummy stops hurting? And so my husband said, you call him. Then he said, his brother has a car for a sleepover this Friday. So that's why we were trying to find some of the kids that we knew, we didn't know, other people.
Others
That
that,
had older siblings. So that's how the whole thing got started with this Jimmy kid. We feel bad, but we didn't start that. So everybody goes pounding on this Jimmy kid's house and looking for, people at Gatlin.
Mhm.
And the kid was asleep, and he didn't have an older sibling. So it kind of got, how social media gets
Mhm.
blown all out of proportion,
Yeah.
like that. So yeah, so that's pretty much what we got. And then and we did my husband was like, go through his book bag and stuff like that. And we found like a cigar
Mhm.
in there. It was I guess a cigar.
Mhm. Has any used the marijuana that you know about?
No, he's never even been like this. Like he did start coming to.
Brothers are hanging around and smoking pot.
The
Then.
thing is, he is at Grand Mountain, and they're mixed with the. He's 5th grade, 11 years old, and they also have the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade there now.
Uh-huh.
Now, I know the school does a really good job because I work for the school district to separate the kids in the different, like, okay, the 4th, 5th graders, 6th grade, but that doesn't mean they still don't meet each other in Larson Ranch. And that's the thing, because he does go take his bike up to Stingray Park. And is that the name of that little park? Whatever the park is up there.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
And things like that. So it's kind of like pretty much that's what we got.
Okay. Did you give our dispatcher the social?
My husband has the social. I'm gonna have like a blurry version. I don't know if I can read it. But he was like freaking out saying, I can't go find social. I'm upset. He is. Me. So I
And I apologize once again that
Yeah.
we got pulled. I mean, there was something pretty urgent on it.
yeah,
They
definitely.
came-
You want to get people that are. He said he lost the socials
So y'all have hit all the friends' houses, or at least some of the people that are
that
out.
we know. Is the social on his military ID? It might be if you consider him.
Was there anything missing?
No, there was nothing missing. I mean, he just had his game, which he's a huge,
Mhm.
like crazy Mario, Sonic.
Mhm.
You know, he had that with him, and that's it. I mean, that's all we see missing because Muslim immediately said, "Go look for the guns."
Mhm.
And like I immediately went in there and I couldn't find one, so I was panicking. But you know how you're looking for something, and
Yeah.
and so I'm like, oh my God, it's gone. And then I realized,
Mhm.
you know, like, okay, it was hid behind some clothes, you know, whatever. So all the guns are accounted for.
And clothing wise,
Oh yeah, no, we didn't see anything.
toiletries.
Nope.
Does he have like a wallet he carries around with like
The-
school ID?
The phone fit the wallet.
Okay, like one of the attached case, like the.
Yeah, you know, an actual wallet.
Oh, okay.
His phone was with the wallet and he had left it in his room.
And is the phone turned off? Have y'all?
Hmm?
Has anybody tried the phone?
Well, I have his phone. He left the phone here with the wallet.
Oh, okay.
That's how we went.
So how do you know? So he must have used somebody else's Facebook. Is that what you're thinking? That like he logged in somebody else's and asked that question if can my parents find me, or was that on?
No,
His search history.
it was in his search history prior to this happening. So
Okay.
he had already like searched this information.
Uh-huh.
He had deleted a bunch of things too because it would have like one thing searched
Uh-huh.
for one day specific, and it was like, okay, we know you're on YouTube, we know you're on this, you should be, you know, whatever. And there was a lot of messages deleted, like for example, his grandma or Nana, he had everything deleted, but we've reached out to all them, and he hasn't been in contact with, you know, with any of them because they all live on the East Coast.
Oh, okay.
So
Has there been any family issues like, other than? I mean,
No.
just the strange thing was asking about the basketball.
what happened last night? So he was upset about last night because he grounded from his switch. Like I told you, it's all around the switch.
Oh, yeah, there was a restriction. Yeah, you said that, but it was lifted.
So yeah, it was lifted today.
Uh-huh.
But last night he had, okay, so we have two little small dogs and he has really bad problems with his stomach because he takes Vyvanse every day.
Mhm.
So when he doesn't, give it to him every day, but if we're going to hike, I try not to because he'll be zombie and
Yeah.
you know, hiking and stuff like that. So he thought, he said, this is what he told me and his sister. She's already asleep now. She's only 8. But he told me and his sister that he thought somebody was coming downstairs. So he immediately like tried to hide it. He knocked the candle over and it set the carpet downstairs on fire.
Uh-huh.
Now it was nothing big,
Right.
like a 12 by 12 spot.
Uh-huh.
So I honestly wasn't even going to tell my husband.
Mhm.
We went in there, we were like going to cut it out and like just replace it
Yeah.
later. Not,
Yeah, I get you.
you know, like,
Yeah.
because if I called you and said, someone burnt down the carpet,
Yeah.
freaking out.
Yeah, you said fire, so I was thinking.
Exactly. So I just took the covers that he was laying down, like and I just like threw it on there because I got my daughter out and the dog's out. She was working and it was
You can have everybody now.
I know it was something that we were just like,
No.
Did he take his bike?
no.
Okay, because somebody saw a little kid on a bike. They posted it, but I didn't know if to drive.
Well, he did, unless he took it sooner and brought it back because Lena ends up getting the bike and
Yeah.
rides the bike because hers
Good
had broke.
information.
When she ran into him, I say ran into him as in not physically, but she somehow got his bike because hers wouldn't work. So he could have at
So
one
they were
point.
here. Okay.
Yeah.
They were supposed to go pick him up for dinner, and he never came home. They thought he was at his friend's house. He was like,
Yeah.
he didn't start sleeping, so they were going to pick him up down the road, and he was never there.
There's
And he never went to his friend's
someone
house.
said he was on
Okay.
and he was taking the switch.
Do you mind if my partner looks around the house real quick?
Yeah.
Because kids, they hide, and
Yeah.
they can hide for hours, and you'd be
I
surprised.
already checked the ADT,
There's a-
there's kids here. I say kids here.
Here.
My sister and 2 dogs.
Okay. Grab her ID too when
Yeah,
you're
no.
done.
He was out there because they left and blah, blah, blah. Somewhere wherever my wallet is at.
So just tell me a timeline. I know you said that y'all were going to go eat at 6.
Yeah, so it
They were
was
supposed to meet y'all back here, but you went down there because you started sleeping.
right. So
What happened between that and the time you got out of school?
okay, so 3:15-ish, 3:20-ish, they usually come in every day and they have to like ride laps or something, like physical activities or something like that. But since his stomach was hurt and his daddy told him he could go ahead and get his like switch time back.
Mhm.
So that's pretty much it. They usually get snacks and we always required him like, hey, you have to go outside, like all these things.
Mhm.
So
Pretty active then, huh?
Yeah.
So he did that. He didn't do that because you said his stomach was hurting. What happened instead of him doing that?
instead of what?
Doing that.
He had already talked to my husband about being off restriction.
Uh-huh.
So he said he was going to his friend's house to play video games.
And what time he left at 3:30?
I don't know the exact time because I was correcting his carpet thing downstairs.
Okay, so he left at that time.
Like my husband's like very more like free than I am with the situation. Like I kind of always like, whose house you going to? Give me their number. That's how I was with her. But like he's like, oh, I'm in a neighborhood ride. They can ride bikes. Everyone's together type thing. So yeah. So all the time they go and ride and meet friends. That's how we knew to go to different people's house because sometimes.
What time did you notice that he left to go? I mean, what time? I mean, between the 3:15 and when did you notice he left?
I came back up here at like maybe like 4:00 and
He was already gone.
right. But then Lena came back in the house, which is the sister, and she said that she had to get his bike because her bike wasn't working, so he gave her his bike or whatever.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he left before 4,
Yeah.
between 3:15 and 4. Okay.
Does he normally leave out the front door? Or
Who?
would he have normally left out the front door?
Or the garage. They're
Okay.
free to do both, or the back because he takes trash out.
But we have a lock on that now, so.
Well, the only reason I asked, it looked like there was a ring doorbell.
Yeah, we already. That's how I told you that we already knew that he had left. Yeah.
And what time was that? Just so we have it for dark.
We don't have the video recording. We just have like the thing on the ring.
Oh, okay.
We don't pay the fee.
And yeah, you can go ahead and grab your ID.
Oh yeah, that's right. I was looking all out.
Yeah, you're fine.
Did I bring my thing in here? Actually might be in there. Can you get her? Let me get my wallet.
Cute.
I think it- My.
You can just give him your name and date of birth.
Yes. No, I didn't grab that card today. It's part of the- No. This is-
Would he have left his phone? Do you know?
Sorry?
Would he normally left his phone here? And does he take it with him often anywhere?
It kind of so depends on what we tell him. If
Mm.
they were to say like, oh yeah, you can take your phone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you can't take it.
Does he have service?
He does.
Is that his phone? Which one?
Yeah, this one's his phone.
Who's that?
His mom.
Oh.
Yeah, I don't know what she's on. Because she must be happy. It might be in that big pile of.
If she's looking for ID, just go grab her name and date of birth.
I think it might be, I'm just waiting on him because it might be in the
I
same
can
call.
get your name and date of birth. Yeah. That's okay. We can just get your name and date of birth.
Oh, okay. Because I was like, it might be in the center console. All right, so Letecia TCIA. Stauch, TECIA. Stauch. And STAUCH. And 8483.
Is it gonna be out of Colorado, like your driver's license, or is it another state?
Another state,
What state is that?
South Carolina.
South Carolina.
Yeah.
That's the accent, huh?
Yeah, that's the accent. It's the
8/4/83.
Yeah, like August 4th, 1983.
And then a middle initial or name for out of states.
Is the other dog? Yeah, no, it's no.
What's your middle name?
I mean, no, it is that. Huh?
Middle name?
It's my maiden name. ARDIN.
171 verbal out of South Carolina.
And the number you called, were you the one that called or was it your husband?
No, I called 911 and then they said call like a non-line or something.
Let me know,
And
Bernard.
called a bunch of lines and then like a couple, like their Nana called another line, so.
Okay. Get her telephone number too, though, because they might not have a good contact if there's several people that called.
Phone number?
All right, so 843-655-7460.
Do you have a picture of him on your phone?
Mom.
Can you?
The ones we all have are like mostly him and his sister together. I mean, can you crop that out or? Is it-
Yeah, if you want to too. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, on your phone, you can send it.
So this
and
is
it-
the one that everyone has been sending, is this one. Do you want me to send it to who?
Yeah, his phone. And then go ahead and get that information for the information I sent you on there after you get the picture.
All right, what?
Stand by.
Listen,
Sure. I just got a new phone number, so I
Okay.
don't remember what it is. If you wanna, while I do this, try and find the driver's license, or
Yeah,
they're not finding you.
it's, it's LE. If you're running me in, like instead of TECIA, it's LETECIA.
Okay.
At Letecia.
One I'm saying one. You try Lincoln Edward, Tom Edward, Charles, Ida Adam for the first name.
Has anybody's been saying anything on the Facebook post or whatever that people are talking about?
Just that they're looking.
Okay, nothing.
I accidentally let it lock, I'm sorry. You ready?
I'm sending you that picture, right? Okay.
Just give them the all.
Negative. I have a OLN for you. 719-663.
719.
31. It's going to be 101-27-5370, South Carolina. So y'all contacted all the friends that y'all know about at this point. Parents, any of them saying anything that you know about that they said they haven't seen him today as well? Nothing like that. Okay. Nothing other than him taking his Switch, his game thing. Nothing else missing. He didn't ride his bike. You just told her, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Nothing other than that. There are no suspicious circumstances. I mean, other than some weird text that I guess he was sending dad about basalt.
Mhm.
Okay. He's got some other information, just some medical stuff that we would like to have. And he's already listed as runaway. So if
Okay.
if he's riding around with a brother and car, he gets contacted, what are you doing out this late? What's your name? It comes up that he's run away. And so they'll give you a call.
Copy.
Just, you want to get that stuff and then
He
You might not-
wasn't in here with this week. That stuff is down there, sir. Can I show him about the smoke stuff? I just didn't want him to step on the cutter, the box thing. I think I still had done it. Okay, because you weren't in here again, right? I thought I didn't know if I had that box put in there, because I told him about, he got the candle last night.
Okay.
And I thought I must have picked it up. I was just making sure. I didn't want you to be like, oh, it's a box cutters. But yeah, I had to cut this. And I told them I wasn't even gonna tell Dad. And I was gonna figure out a way to put this in there from the situation, but.
at least you got a cart. Yeah, you got
Right, I just took it and like covered up with the carpet and stuff like that, but. It's not gonna be friends around here. There is I'm gonna find this thing. He did have this one, like, book thing.
It's where you're supposed to be at down the road.
They checked that already?
They went over there and talked to him and they're like, no, we hadn't seen him at all.
He did have this like
And you talked to parents, right? You didn't talk to.
yeah, Connor's mom came over, who is a friend he hangs out with all the time. So they come over, the people here, the friends, they were just the ones that were the door with the bike. They came over, a bunch of people came over. Yeah, so
Any
he
friends?
did have like a little book that had names on it, but I don't know. I mean, I don't see it like anywhere specifically, because like his wallet, he's not like I teach 5th grade, and like, you got your like really, really mature kind of boys, but then waiting, he forgets to like bring this or bring that or bring this or bring that.
Still kidding.
Yeah. No, we actually lay out all the clothes all the time, like for, like every day at school, we lay out clothes, we do whatever.
Is his jacket gone?
He had he has several jackets. Like it depends on, I'm very like fashion. So it just depends on jackets. Like you might have this black one with this, or there's a blue one with this.
So you got a jacket.
Yeah.
Okay.
Several jackets. Like, I mean, you see the kid has, like tons and tons of clothes, and he just,
Okay.
he has all that stuff. So. And he took like none of this, all of these things.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. He's gonna grab some more questions and
Okay.
How long do you guys live here?
Maybe like a year and something now. Yeah.
And you have talked to all of his friends' parents in the area?
I'm not the person that talks to things. I don't have numbers. I don't say yes. I don't say no. My husband tells him yes or no. So he has all the numbers.
There could be some friends that you don't.
Right. Because I don't know the people like that. And a lot of the time that I was here, I had a job on the East Coast. So I had to fly back and forth a lot. So I didn't really meet a lot of people, like my husband did.
Mhm.
And he's like, always want to be the one to talk to everybody about it instead of.
Well, how about your husband? You talk to these people?
Yeah, he's been on the phone with a bunch of them. He's in Oklahoma, Fort Steele right now.
Seriously, anybody he hasn't been able to get a hold of?
No, he said he's talked to everyone that he knows of. The only concern we had is he was talking about the friend with the older sibling, and we don't know who that one is.
Mhm.
That's the one we don't know
You guys have a name for that?
because we don't know who that person is. We've never heard him say like specific name. And my husband said when he talked to him today that there was no like specific name for that. He didn't give him a name. He just told him no. So.
And he took his game console deal.
Yeah, they have a couple of different consoles.
One of them's gone.
Switch Lite, they have a 2DS, a 3DS. One of them's gone. It was in like a bluish black. Wait, no, that one might be in red. I don't remember. I just know in the video you can see that, or the picture that the lady had, you can see like he's got something right here and it's like not far down.
Which pictures is?
So some lady online had noticed it, like messaged us and had noticed that was him or the description, and she was like, "Was that him?" And I was like, "Yes."
What was that picture taken?
Well, no, I honestly have about 150 Facebook messages that I haven't answered people on because You guys showed.
Was it local? I mean, was it in this
Yes,
Lorson
it's
Ranch?
Lorson Ranch. Someone put it on the Lorson Ranch page. And so a lot of people just kept sending messages, information. First, someone said they saw him get in a white SUV. Then someone said they caught it on their camera. They were all supposed to be sending this to me. But as I was talking to all these people on Facebook, because my husband gave the neighbor permission to post it, you guys came and I kept having alerts with us and I weren't gonna you know. Huh? Okay.
No.
Okay. I know you probably gave some of this information to dispatch already, but can you give us a description of him from
Yes.
hair color, eye color, any
Yeah,
artificial,
so brown, let's see, brown,
I don't know.
like whitish color skin.
Yes, it's in this house. They don't.
Somewhere around there.
Just keep this close because our heat.
The parents made that.
And
Yeah.
then
Well, they said that
410.
there was a weird text that Dad got about something about bath salts and hey, if I can get some bath salts, do we have any bath salts? And my friend won't let me play Sonic or something in their house. Yeah.
I got it.
And then mom goes through everything, finds oh, so this is Parker. Yes, sir. I'm not bad here. Yes.
Yes.
No, we're still getting the runaway report right now.
Harley, did you get it? Who was it?
Okay, I appreciate it.
Oh, okay. Okay. I just didn't.
Right. I mean, there's not anything that's suspicious about it. I think that it just kind of went viral on social media, and so everybody's finding out about it now. I mean, he just didn't show home at 6, but he's also been in trouble and had a game console that he left with. So he's probably at somebody's house right now playing games.
That's why me and my husband absolutely think, and we think we absolutely think that, and we've calmed our stress level
Oh.
for a week.
Like a thick, heavy winter jacket, a
Uh-huh.
windbreaker.
No, like the ones I was showing you guys in there, it's like a little windbreaker type.
Okay, good to know.
So anything to.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I'm mid, so I'll be on it.
No, they asked me about tattoos and earrings and all that.
Like I'm
So
gonna end up.
Okay,
asking
perfect.
a lot of the same questions that dispatch asked.
Oh yeah,
Right.
yeah. If you hear anything from the school, let us know, please. All right. Oh, there's Don Roy Cat.
Yeah, we already talked to a bunch of people at school.
Yeah, he's the head of security, so he.
Game or something tonight, so that was like one of the things we were thinking. If I guess they went to like the basketball game or something.
He said there was he said there was partial right on, so.
Smith.
Yeah. What?
It was the off duty.
No,
Okay.
just somebody in the neighborhood or something.
Get a dentist you go to.
If you guys want to call my husband.
Yeah, we can do that. We'll follow up because we know have a little bit more information. Yeah, then.
A lot of the,
Okay.
he does all that.
How long's he been over there stationed
He's
at
not restationed here, he's just at
training?
my career course.
Okay.
So they go to a dentist, I think it's like Fountain Dentist maybe.
Yeah, we can get on it.
Base.
We'll give him a call.
Yeah.
What's his name?
Al, A-L, Stauch, S-T-A-U-C-H,
Phone number?
843-478-6714. Yes.
Are we back on 3?
I'm on 3.
And they call it code.
We'll give him a call, try to
Okay.
get some more information.
Yeah, I mean, as far as like the medical, dental, like he'll know like all that stuff because he takes them on base.
Cool. All right. Well, we'll go give him a call in the car real quick and see if we can get any information that we don't already have. If not, we'll come back and or we'll give you a case number for
Okay.
the runaway and everything. Okay. All right. Thanks.
Down here, no.
I didn't see him.
Okay. We have gas.
Five? Oh my god. And two.
Right. Prosecution, call your next witness, please. Right. Sergeant, if you would step forward and raise your right hand, please, sir. You swear affirm the testimony about to give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Go ahead and have a seat in the witness stand. Please watch your step as you step into the stand.
Good afternoon, sir.
Hi,
How are you doing?
good. How are you?
Good. Will you please state your name for the record?
Yeah, it's Christopher Ganstein, Ganstine.
And while it may be apparent, how are you employed?
I'm employed with the El Paso County Sheriff's Office.
And what is your role at the sheriff's office?
My current role is I'm a patrol supervisor.
Sergeant?
Yes,
And in January of 2020, what was your role then?
I held the rank of detective sergeant and I was assigned to the Colorado Springs Metro Vice and Narcotics Unit.
And in terms of your role specifically as it relates to that case, this case here, what were you tasked with doing with the Metro BNI unit?
One of our many tasks that we do is we do covert surveillance, and we were asked to start a surveillance operation on the defendant.
And as part of that surveillance on January 30th of 2020, where was your team located?
We had started early in the morning at, I believe it was the 10,000 block of Intrepid Way, which was in the Lorson Ranch neighborhood.
And were you able to make visual contact with the person that you know to be Leticia Stauch?
I was.
Okay. And do you see that same person here today in court?
I do.
Can you identify her by where she's seated in the courtroom?
She's sitting next to an attorney wearing a blue suit, and she's wearing a purplish top.
All right. Your Honor, may the record reflect that the sergeant has identified the defendant.
The record will so reflect. Go ahead.
Can you walk us through what you observed on January 30th with that surveillance?
Yeah, so we were told from the night before that the defendant and her daughter were more than likely staying at that address. When I got there, the vehicle that was in question that she was seen in the day before, I believe it was a white Jetta, was in the driveway. And so I had actually, since I got there first, I had set up shortly down the street with a clear view of the door and the vehicle. And I can't recall the exact time. I know we were there for a little bit that they'd come out, but I observed the defendant and Harley, her daughter, walk out house, and Harley got into the driver's seat and the defendant got into the rear right passenger seat.
And as at that point, after viewing the defendant get into the passenger seat, did the Metro VNI team continue to conduct surveillance?
We started what we refer to as rolling surveillance. We're all in covert vehicles, and so we started from there, and we just were tasked with following her and seeing what she was doing.
And as you continue to follow her, any sort of observation that you made about movements or type of movements?
Yeah, it was weird because there was only two people in the car. She was sitting in the back seat, and for most of the time that they were driving, she would either be completely slouched down so you couldn't actually see her in the back seat, or her head would just be up far enough to where you could kind of see her looking out the window. But she wasn't sitting like a normal person would sit, and she wasn't sitting in the front seat either.
And based on your training experience and what you've done, especially with the Metro VNI unit, how would you describe that type of behavior?
That behavior is common when we're following fugitives or following people that are, I don't want to call it surveillance conscious. I guess the term would be people that feel that they may be subject to law enforcement surveillance and are trying to hide themselves from that.
Avoid detection?
Avoid detection would be a good term.
At that point, is there a particular area, and if you could explain why a particular area was chosen in town to make contact with the defendant?
We had followed her for about an hour-ish, going to various places. Eventually, she ended up at a parking lot at the intersection of Woodman and Academy. It was the Marshall's clothing store. She had parked, or Harley parked in the parking lot, and then they had walked inside the store. Shortly after they had walked inside the store, I was notified by Sheriff's Office investigations that they had obtained a warrant for the vehicle that they were driving, and that they'd also obtained an additional warrant for a cell phone that was either in the possession of Harley or her, that they had both been using. And they had asked that we basically come out from cover, from surveillance, and make contact and secure the vehicle, and then secure the phone.
Do you have a rough approximation of about what time that would have been that you were given essentially the green light to move forward?
I believe it was the early afternoon.
And did you create a report in conjunction with your work on this case?
I did.
And would reviewing that report refresh your recollection as to the time?
It would.
Your Honor, permission to approach?
You may.
$13:24, so 1:24 p.m.
Refreshes your recollection.
It does. Sorry.
So at, and not everybody thinks in military time, but what is 13:24?
That'd be 1:24 p.m.
Okay. At that time, can you explain for the jury what you did?
So I'd coordinated my team. I had put some detectives inside the Michaels to maintain surveillance on those two. And then I had created a multi-person team outside. And the plan was that when they had checked out, we would be notified outside that they had. Once they had walked outside, we were going to have two units that have emergency lights just pull up. And we were going to do what we refer to as like a soft contact, just, hey, it's the police. We got to get your phone and we got to do this because we got a warrant. And that was the plan, that they'd come out and do that. Our main concern was obviously the phone and destruction of evidence, or being able to get back in the car and flee.
So in relation to the type of approach you use and decided to use, was that important?
I'm sorry, I couldn't overhear with the cough.
In terms of the type of approach that you wanted to use, a soft approach, that was important for the purposes of evidence?
Yes.
Okay. Can you describe for the jury what you were wearing, how you looked that day?
Yeah, so I was undercover, so I was wearing street clothes. However, we have what we refer to as raid vest or bus vest. So it's similar to this, except what I was wearing is all black. All of my stuff that I would normally have on a belt, kind of like what this is all on my vest, including my firearm. The main difference, it's black. The word sheriff is across the entire chest. It's bigger than what this is. And then I didn't have a cloth badge at that time. That one actually had my physical real metal badge on my thing. And then it was in January, so I would have been wearing jeans and a hoodie under it.
So dressed in all of those things that you're wearing on January 30th, what occurred when you went to approach the defendant?
So it didn't go as planned because Harley had stayed inside, and then the defendant had come out. Specifically, when the defendant came out, she was holding the keys to the car. And so that's a concern. We can't let her get into the vehicle. Where her vehicle was, I was parked directly next to her vehicle, in between her vehicle and the store. So I radioed to everybody that we would stick with Harley inside, and that I was going to get out and just contact the defendant myself and just let her know what was going on, that we had a warrant for the car and that I couldn't let her in and I need to get the keys. So I had gotten out of my car that time, And as she walked up to me, I'd approached her. Actually, I didn't really approach her. She had gotten there about the same time, right in between the two cars.
While that approach is happening, can you describe the defendant's demeanor?
She was surprised. So she kind of froze, and I said, "My name is Sergeant Gannon Stauch with the Sheriff's Office. We have a search warrant for the vehicle. I can't let you into it. I'm going to need the keys." And basically, it was like I said, it was a soft approach, just like I'm talking now. She didn't acknowledge me. She didn't say anything. Where she was, she had maneuvered kind of closer to her driver's door, and then just started slowly walking backwards.
Were there any observations that you noticed about her gaze or where she was looking, anything like that?
Yeah, so the two biggest things I noticed is she was just stuttering, like one word, like key, warrant, like just repeating what I was saying. And then she kept walking further back, and I told her, I said, relax, you're not in trouble. I just need the keys to the car. I can't let you into it. She continued to walk back, and then I noticed she started to turn her head behind her, because when that was going on, so there's my vehicle, her vehicle, and I'm here, she's here, so she can't go past me. She can't go left or right. So all she can do is basically turn around. And so I noticed that she was periodically turning around as she continued to walk backwards.
As she walked backwards, what did she do after that?
She turned and ran in a full sprint away from me. She had the keys in her hand. I was like, okay. Got on the radio and I was like, she's running. Like, I don't know what's going on. And I started running after her. As she was running away from me, she had taken the keys to the car and threw them across the parking lot. It took us a little bit of time to find them, but she had thrown them across the parking lot. And so she threw them one way and then kept running the other way from where she threw the keys.
Ultimately, after running after her, were you able to make contact?
Yes, to the two vehicles that had the lights that we were going to have come in, they rolled in. They got out. One drew his firearm and gave her commands, and she had stopped and got on the ground at that time. And then I didn't know what was going on, so I went up and handcuffed her at that time, detained her until we could find out what was going on and what had happened. And then she was given to two other people that had taken her back to a car.
Okay. But to be clear, at that time, she was not being arrested, correct?
No.
While you were present on scene with other law enforcement members, where was Harley Hunt?
She was, when that happened, she was walking out of the Michaels, pretty like within a minute of that happening and them and then me detaining the defendant.
Okay. And with specifically as it relates to the approval of the search warrant for a cellular telephone, was that able to be gathered that day?
Yes. Initially Harley was reluctant to give the phone. Just yanked it right out of her hand, so she couldn't manipulate or do anything with it.
Was there any interaction that you observed between the defendant and her daughter, Harley Hunt, while you were present on scene?
Yes. The defendant was fairly hysterical. She was screaming. She was yelling obscenities, things like that. Once she realized that we were also in contact with Harley, she started screaming at Harley, saying, "Don't say anything. Tell him you want an attorney. Don't talk to him." Those type of statements. And we were trying to tell her we just need to get the phone.
And after obtaining the phone from Harley Hunt and securing Ms. Stauch, what did you do after that?
At that point, we had moved Harley because Harley started crying and she was fairly hysterical as well. But actually before that, I talked to the defendant and I told her she needed to calm down. She's screaming. We're in a public parking lot. She's committing criminal acts and she doesn't need to get herself in trouble. So just to relax and calm down. And she did. Once I had that short conversation with her, she stopped yelling. And then we had moved Harley into the back of one of our patrol vehicles. We didn't close the door. We left the door open. And I just had a quick conversation with Harley to calm her down because she was crying and she was fairly hysterical.
Okay. And were you able to calm her down?
Yeah. I told her, hey, here's the deal. We needed to get the phone. I don't know what your mom just did, but we're fine now and we're going to let you guys go.
Okay.
So.
And to be clear, up until that point, the defendant was not arrested. She was not, she didn't have any criminal summons or anything like that you provided to her, correct?
No, until we can secure the scene and find out exactly what the circumstances were behind the unusual reaction of me just trying to get car keys, given the scope of the investigation and its infancy, we didn't know if there was something more that we didn't know until we knew. So once we calmed everything down, got everyone calm, we released them because we accomplished what we needed to do, which was to execute the 2 warrants.
And after obtaining the cellular telephone, is that telephone then made available or accessible in evidence for other law enforcement officers with access to?
It was given. We had multiple detectives from majors there from the sheriff's office, and it was given to them.
You talked a bit about your training experience and different things that you've observed over your career as a law enforcement officer. As it relates to this specific interaction with a defendant, would you describe whether or not she was suffering a mental crisis, mental disease or defect at that time?
So to get in, I've been a deputy for 19 years. I've had a lot of interactions, and arrested a lot of people. And in terms of surveillance and a lot of that, when people are surprised by law enforcement, we've heard the term fight or flight. So people have to make 2 decisions when tell them to, and if their answer is yes, we're done. If their answer is no, the second decision they need to make is, well, what am I going to do? Am I going to run or am I going to fight? And so those decisions have to be made. And in this particular interaction, based on the totality of hiding in the vehicle, taking steps to be covert, those are overt acts. Those aren't, subversive acts. And between that and then what we refer to as target glancing, which means when a person wants to run from us, or let's say they have a gun on them or whatever, a lot of times they'll actually look to see, they'll forecast where they're going to run, because they'll be looking around, they're trying to find what their avenue of escape, and that's what they're going to do. Same thing if they have like a weapon on them, a lot of times they'll be touching it, or if they have a knife, we actually train that we see these things, and I've experienced those things through my 19-year career. So I saw the target glancing, and I was pretty evident when she was backing up and then started turning around that she was going to run. And I think that in my mind, those were conscious decisions that were made.
Okay. But specifically as it relates to observing a severe mental disease or defect while you were present on scene observing her, did you observe that?
I did not.
Pass the witness, Your Honor.
Cross-examination.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Sergeant Ganstein. My name is Will Cook and I represent Ms. Stauch. I'm going to ask you a few questions. This encounter with Ms. Stauch and Harley Hunt, her daughter, took place on January 30th, 2020.
That's correct.
Okay. Had you ever seen Ms. Stauch in person before seeing her at this residence where you, I guess, were staking it out or had it under surveillance?
I'd seen photos of her.
Photos? Okay. And is that how you recognized her when she came out of this house and got into the car with Harley?
Yes, when we do
The photos?
operations, we have briefing plans where we go over photos and all that other stuff.
Okay. Had you seen photos of Harley?
I can't recall.
Okay. And you've testified that it seemed like she was acting suspiciously, ducking down in the back seat of the car seemed like she was avoiding detection?
She wasn't in the vehicle consistent with the more normal motoring public driving around. Yes.
Okay. But you said it seemed like she was avoiding detection or specifically contacts with law enforcement.
That was my impression. Yes.
Okay. So the person driving her around while she's doing this is also helping her to avoid detection or contact with law enforcement.
I can't speak to her intentions. I can only speak to my observations. My observations of her and her driving was not consistent with somebody that's actively trying to evade surveillance.
What would evading surveillance be?
When we follow individuals, drivers specifically, that feel that they're being followed by law enforcement, there's a number of countermeasures essentially that people will take. They'll make U-turns, run red lights, go down one-way streets, or go down to cul-de-sacs and turn around to see if anybody's following them, randomly pull over. It's in our training, well, not our training, our experience, it's pretty apparent when somebody's doing that, and I didn't see that here.
And that's what drivers will do to avoid contact or be followed.
Yeah, if there's multiple people in the vehicle, the only one that can make those decisions to do that would be the driver. They're the only ones in control of the vehicle.
Was Leticia Stauch on January 30th, when you had your interaction with her, was she a person of interest or a suspect in the death of Gannon Stauch? Stauch, I'm sorry.
I wouldn't, in my limited observation, because I wasn't part of the investigations division, it was relayed to me that there was concerns and she was potentially a person of interest. I never actually heard the term that she would be a quote suspect.
And when you were following them, did you know the driver of the vehicle at that time was Harley Hunt?
I had a high probability it was, based on the information I received last night and who was in the vehicle, and the vehicle was Harley's vehicle.
So you had gotten information that she was possibly staying at this residence with her daughter.
Yeah, we had a surveillance operation the day before, and I was monitoring that operation the entire night.
Okay. Did you have your body camera on? I see right here in the courtroom, you've got your body camera. It looks like the big black cell phone.
At that time, no, I worked in undercover capacity, and undercover officers don't carry body worn generally.
So you had no body worn camera.
I did not.
Did any of the other deputies or law enforcement officers at the marshals?
Anybody that was on my team would not have had one. This was 3 years ago. Obviously, there's been legislative changes since then that have changed who has to carry them. It was not normal at that time for our investigations people to carry them either when doing contacts, because they weren't specifically required like they are now.
Okay. Was Harley Hunt, since you knew her, she was at the residence, she was Ms. Stauch's daughter, was she a person of interest in this investigation into the missing, I guess at this time he was a missing person, but later death of Gannon Stauch?
Not to my knowledge.
And have you ever been qualified as an expert diagnosing any of the diseases, mental health diseases from the DSM-4 or 5?
I've not been qualified as an expert in that, no.
Okay. And you've never gone to school for or gotten any sort of degrees in psychology or psychiatry or anything? You've never been called as an expert witness to testify as to that?
I've never been called as an expert witness, no.
Okay. Just a second, Your Honor. All I have. Thank you,
Thank
Sergeant.
you.
Redirect. Gratiano?
Yes.
Sergeant,
As part of a unit conducting surveillance, why would it not be feasible to wear a body worn camera?
Well, number one, we're in undercover capacity. We don't want other people to see. Basically, I don't want anyone to know my detectives and who they are, what they look like, or anything else. Certainly body worn camera evidence is discoverable, and that could potentially put my detectives' lives in danger that are working significant undercover operations involving criminal. We purposely hide our detectives' identity to the point to where they have different names and everything.
In terms of how obvious it would be to have a camera in the center of your chest, would that also be an issue as well?
Well, if we were wearing a camera, it would probably burn us, if you want to call it that. I think people would realize we were the police really quickly, and majority of our job is done behind the scenes, and people don't know that we're there. So,
No further questions, Your Honor.
All right. Do any of the jurors have any questions for Sergeant Gasting? No? All right. Thank you, sir. You may step down.
thank you.
Prosecution, calling next witness, please.
Dr. Leon Kelly.
Dr. Kelly, if you would step forward and raise your right hand, please, sir. You swear or affirm the testimony about to give in this man will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
There you are.
Go ahead and have a seat in the witness stand. Please watch your step as you step to the stand.
Good afternoon, Dr. Kelly. How are you doing?
Good afternoon.
Will you please introduce yourself to our jury and then spell your name for the record?
I'm Dr. Leon Kelly, Leonkelly.
Dr. Kelly, what is your occupation?
I am the El Paso County Coroner and Chief Medical Examiner.
How long have you been in that type of a role?
I've been with the Coroner's Office since 2008 as the Deputy Chief until 2018, which I was elected as the Coroner and Chief Medical Examiner, and then I was reelected in 2022.
Can you tell the jury about your education that allows you to do that job?
I have a Bachelor's of Science in Biology from Indiana University. I have a medical degree from Indiana University School of Medicine. Following that, I completed 4 years in training in anatomic and clinical pathology at Penrose St. Francis here in Colorado Springs. And then following that, I completed a 1-year fellowship in forensic pathology at the University of Texas in Dallas. So I'm board certified in anatomic pathology, clinical pathology, and forensic pathology, and I'm a fully licensed physician in Colorado.
Do you also have certifications?
I do.
Can you tell the jury about that, please?
Board certified in anatomic, clinical, and forensic pathology.
Any professional memberships?
Yes, I'm a member of the National Association of Medical Examiners, the College of American Pathologists, and the American Society of Clinical Pathology.
What about publications? Have you published any journals or anything like that as it relates to pathology or any of your job duties?
We've published papers, posters as well on various types of deaths in forensic setting.
Have you ever testified as a court qualified expert witness?
I have.
In what areas?
Forensic pathology, strangulation, many forensic sciences.
What courts have you testified as an expert in?
Multiple courts in Colorado, including El Paso County, as well as courts in South Dakota, California, Ohio, Texas.
Okay. At this time, I would move to have Dr. Kelly qualified as an expert in forensic pathology.
Vince?
No objection, Your Honor.
The witness will be so qualified.
And just so we're all on the same page, Doctor, when we say the word pathology, what do we mean on that?
Pathology is a field of medicine defined essentially as the study of disease or injury.
And then what about forensic pathology?
Forensic pathology is a subset of pathology that deals specifically with deaths that occur in individuals suddenly, unexpectedly, or of anything non-natural. And so it's a field focused specifically on determining cause and manner of death in individuals who've died under those suspicious or injurious circumstances.
Doctor, back in January of 2020, what was your role then as far as, I guess just what was your role back then?
January 2020, I was the elected coroner and chief medical examiner for El Paso County.
Did you get involved in the criminal investigation of the Gannon Stauch murder?
I did.
Can you tell the jury how that happened, how you got involved in that?
There were human remains discovered in Florida. There was a tentative identification as to who that individual was, but not a positive scientific identification. To date, when I became involved, they weren't yet able to definitively identify the individual as Gannon Stauch. And so I was contacted by our local district attorney's office and asked if I could help identify him. And so the medical examiner's office there in Florida had yet to be able to accomplish that. And I've had good luck and experience in identifying individuals who had been deceased for a long time. So I said, yes, let's bring the remains, or at least portion of the remains, to El Paso County, and we will do our best to identify him.
What were complicating factors leading to this difficulty that you just described to get a DNA confirmation?
The remains had advanced decomposition, so the body had begun to break down. To make scientific identification, generally we talk about two things: dental, which is you look at the teeth, you x-ray them, and then you have to have radiographs or x-rays from that individual that you think it is at a dentist that they went to when they were alive. The other way to identify individuals is through DNA. As the body breaks down, the cells that have the DNA, the material that we need to identify, begins to dissolve. And it becomes very difficult to use traditional DNA techniques to get enough of that material that's still intact to identify them. And so living in the mountains, in a place where people often go missing or not found for sometimes many years, we've grown skilled in being able to identify individuals who have that degree of decomposition or skeletonization.
What items did you receive from Florida to do the analysis that you did?
So for the forensic odontology examination, we received teeth dental material. And then for the DNA, we received a femur, one of the leg bones, the upper portion of the leg bone.
Tell the jury what you did to potentially find a sample that would be suitable for developing a DNA profile.
And so for the DNA, what we did was essentially take the femur, which is the sort of the large ball that lives up in the hip. It's relatively protected. It'd be one of the last things that could be exposed to the environment. And that femoral head, the ball part that goes into the socket that's the hip, contains a large amount of bone and blood at its center, essentially bone marrow. And so we saw it in half, separating the two parts of the ball. And inside there is large amounts, I said, of we call trabecular bone that contains the bone marrow that replenishes the white blood cells in the body. And so we sawed it in half, which revealed the inner marrow and a fresher state of cells, and then essentially release that to the DNA lab, who then could scoop out that marrow and then look for DNA.
And when you said that to the DNA lab, is that the Metro Crime Lab?
It is.
Did you ever learn whether they were able to develop a DNA profile from that sample you submitted?
I was told that they did.
Did you learn who they identified that DNA sample to?
The DNA was positively identified as Gannon Stauch.
Okay. Thank you, doctor.
Cross-examination.
Thank you. Dr. Kelly, good afternoon. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm fine. Thank you. When you do autopsies, you've done hundreds of them, if not thousands of them over your career, correct?
Correct.
Okay. When you have a human body that is deceased, it will start smelling. For lack of a better term, it'll start emitting a bad smell, putrid smell, whatever you want to call it. But that's one of the hallmarks of death, is a bad smell.
Yeah, as the body breaks down, the bacteria that live in our body begin to consume the body. One of the byproducts of their metabolism is gas that smells poorly. So once decomposition begins, yes, human remains, as do all organic remains, including other animals, begins to smell quite.
How, and I know it depends on temperature, humidity, and a lot of other factors, but if you could just discuss, when a person dies, a human being dies, how long does it take for this poor smell to begin?
So the breakdown of the body after death is driven almost entirely by temperature. Humans are like any other organism that dies. If you have a steak and you put it in your fridge or your freezer, it'll last for weeks, months, many years without smelling. You leave that same steak out on a hot day in the front of your house in the sun, and it'll start stinking within a couple hours. Humans are no different. And so given normal temperatures, let's say 70 degrees inside a home, usually decomposition begins, the body's sort of well into a decomposition and the smell is quite obvious and strong. However, given a very hot environment, 90 degrees, 100 degrees, bodies can begin decomposing within just a few hours.
So inside a home or a building, 70 degrees, climate controlled, or perhaps in a vehicle that's climate controlled at 70 degrees, you're looking at 3 to 5 days before it could really start smelling poorly.
That's correct.
Okay. And when you say start smelling poorly, somebody else in a closed vehicle or in a home, or they would be able to smell it. It would be very apparent.
It would, yes.
Okay. Would it be overpowering?
You're probably talking to the wrong guy for that. It's it's kind of my everyday.
You have a high tolerance for poor smells?
Be careful what you get good at. Yes, I do. But yes, generally someone who's not used to dealing with that smell every day, it's tough. It's tough to deal with. It's essentially overpowering. Yes.
Okay. So a normal human being, it would be overpowering.
That's correct.
All right. I think that's all I have, Doctor. Thank you.
Redirect.
Thank you, Doctor. Your ability to withstand these odors notwithstanding, if a person freezes the body, will that delay when that smell becomes heavier?
It will. Yes, freezing a body will essentially stop decomposition as it does with all meat. And then once removed, it will take sometimes several days for bodies that we have that are frozen out in the environment during the winter to thaw to the point where you can even autopsy them, sometimes 2 to 3 days. So yeah, a frozen body or a body kept at cool temperatures essentially can last indefinitely before those smells appear.
And I'm going to ask you some probably very obvious questions here, but just bear with me. Gannon was reported missing in late January of 2020, winter months. If the body had been left outside in those conditions, would that be ripe for freezing that body?
It would.
If it was left overnight, would that be ripe for freezing that body?
It would.
And then if the body is kept in an enclosed container, like a suitcase with blankets in it, would that also potentially limit how quickly that odor escapes from that item?
It would. First, it would insulate the body, allow it to stay cooler longer. And then also any closed environment helps prevent that smell from emanating out, from flies getting to it, which aids in decomposition. So yeah, it would reduce the smell dramatically.
When your office responds out to crime scenes to retrieve a dead body from a crime scene, do you wrap them in, or do your folks wrap them in a body bag?
They do.
Is that to contain fluids and those sorts of things, and even potentially smell?
Evidence, fluid, smells, yes.
Okay. That's all I have. Thank you.
Do any of the jurors have any questions for Dr. Kelly? Looks like we have one. Just pass it forward. And Mr. Allen, if you would retrieve that council approach, please. All right, Dr. Kelly, what impact does humidity have on decomposition?
So humidity, meaning the moisture in the air, would result in decomposition likely and potentially happening at a slightly increased rate. Probably not dramatically, not enough to alter the time course that I talked about. What it does do is alter dramatically the type of decomposition that's going to happen. And so in a state like Florida or in the Gulf Coast, where you have high temperatures, lots of moisture in the air and the environment, the body tends to decompose in a way that's sort of very, very, very wet. And it goes through a process which we call adipocere, which is the bacteria and the things that live in a moist environment are very different than a dry environment. And so those bodies do tend to smell even worse, if you can imagine, than other conditions. Here in the West, where we live, bodies go through a different state. They start out juicy and wet initially because there's fluid in the body, but then it relatively quickly turns towards a mummification, which is a drying out, a leathering of the body, which does tend to keep the smell down quite a bit. The first few weeks of the decomposition, there's not going to be a measurable difference. It's really after that point where they'll go these two different directions.
I will allow reasonable follow-up as to that question only. Mr. Allen?
Only for purposes of our record, can you spell adipocere for the court reporter?
Yes, adipocere is ADIPOCERE.
Right.
Got it.
All right. Mr. Cook?
I don't have anything.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Kelly. You may
Thank
sit
you, Your Honor.
down. Watch your step. Prosecution, call your next witness, please. Ms. Williams, if you would step forward and raise your right hand, please, ma'am. You swear affirm the testimony about to give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Go ahead and have a seat in the witness stand. Please watch your step as you step into the stand.
Good
Ms.
afternoon, Ms.
Graziano?
Williams. Sorry, Your Honor.
That's all right.
Would you state your name for the record?
Yes, my name is Marissa Williams.
And where are you currently employed?
I'm employed with the El Paso County Sheriff's Office
How long have you been with the sheriff's office?
for approximately 11 years.
And in 2020, what was the nature of your roles and responsibility with El Paso County Sheriff's Office?
I was assigned to the investigations division as a detective.
And as it relates to your work, in this case, fair to say that you were the jack of all trades?
Yes, although primarily handled the financial responsibilities.
Okay. In terms of obtaining financial responsibilities, can you explain what you mean by that?
Yes, I initially took interest in, I guess, tracking the financial records of the Stauches to determine what type of activity they had been taking part in during the time that Gannon went missing.
And so as part of that, would you have been involved in applications for search warrants, things like that?
That's correct.
Did you also have observations of other law enforcement officers collecting evidence, for example?
Yes, ma'am. There were other officers and investigators, both with the DA's office and the FBI, assisting the El Paso County Sheriff's Office in collecting the type of records I was collecting as well.
Okay. And I'll direct your attention to January 28th of 2020. Were you on duty that day?
Yes, ma'am.
And were you present for an interview, or at least a portion of an interview that occurred that day?
Yes, ma'am.
Where was that?
The interview was at the El Paso County Sheriff's Office. I observed Detective Mark Riley interviewing Eugene Al Stauch.
Okay. And for other interviews that may have been conducted with Leticia Stauch, were you present for any of those?
I was present, but I did not observe the full interviews.
Okay. I will direct your attention to observations of Leticia Stauch. Did you see her in person?
Yes, I did meet her in person.
Okay. And is there a particular date you recall seeing her in person?
Yes, it was Wednesday, January 29th at the El Paso County Sheriff's Office.
Okay. And on that date, can you generally describe her demeanor? How would you describe her demeanor?
She was evasive with questions. She was, I would say, upset, but not in the same way that you would expect with a parent that's missing a child.
I'll sustain the objection on the different grounds. I think she needs to lay a little bit more foundation as to her experience regarding contacts with parents of missing children.
And again, the degree that she's gonna be basing it on observation or opinion on her work experience, I'm objecting under Stewart.
All right, and under People versus Furler, 373 Pacific 3rd, 672 Colorado Appellate 2015, I don't think that the Stewart standard regarding accident reconstructionist applies. This doesn't involve specialized training. This does involve her experience regarding contacts with other individuals who may have been similarly situated. The objection is overruled.
In terms of your experience in law enforcement over the years, have you had contact with a variety of suspects, a person of interest, that sort of thing?
Yes, I have probably hundreds.
Have you been exposed to parents of missing children as well?
Yes,
Parents of runaways?
yes.
And in terms of your training experience, specifically as it relates to being around parents of missing children, how would you describe the defendant's demeanor on January 29th of 2020?
My experience with parents of missing children or runaways comes from having worked on patrol during the years of 2014 through 2018. And most parents are primarily concerned with doing something to track down their child, such as contacting friends, going out and searching for their child, or providing any type of evidence that would assist law enforcement in doing the same. But Ms. Stauch, on the other hand, was bothered by the fact that she had to come in and talk with law enforcement, and was more concerned about her well-being than her missing sons.
In terms of being present on scene, and again, based on your training experience as it relates to your role as a detective, but also on patrol, did it appear to you at that time that she was experiencing a severe mental disease, defect, or crisis?
I'm gonna object to this testimony in general as to these officers laying an opinion that they lack the proper foundation with this. I'm gonna specifically refer the court to People v. Medina, Colorado Supreme Court, 521 P2D 1257, Colorado Supreme Court, 1974.
Right. Ms. Gratiano.
Your Honor, for the reasons that we've had prior law enforcement officers explain their training experience and their observations while on patrol or other investigations, she's laid sufficient foundation to testify to that answer.
And Your Honor, Medina specifically deals with law enforcement officers that says that the limited interaction they've had is not sufficient for any opinion regarding them.
All right. Any further record? All right, ladies and gentlemen, here's what's going on. This officer cannot testify about whether or not someone has a mental disease or defect in the form or in the same fashion that a psychiatrist would be able to testify as to whether or not somebody has a mental disease or defect. However, I do think that this officer can testify based upon her contacts with a defendant as to how she interpreted the defendant's mental status. I think that's a common issue that we all deal with. Some people are, when we talk with somebody, we all understand that someone may be under some stress, someone may be acting differently, those sorts of things. I think that this officer can testify about that. However, this officer cannot testify about whether or not she has a specific mental defect or disease, and it will go to weight, not admissibility. Ms. Gratiano.
In terms of understanding conversations that were occurring that day, how would you describe how the defendant answered questions?
I think she answered questions competently. She understood the questions that were being asked. There was no indication that She did not understand the questions or failed to understand language that was being spoken.
At any point, did she refer to herself or address anyone by a different name, referring to herself?
Not that I recall.
And in terms of her overall awareness of the situation, how would you describe that on January 29th of 2020? How would you describe her demeanor?
I'm
Awareness,
not
awareness
really
as
sure how to answer.
yeah, awareness as to where she was, what was being done, what she was being asked, etc.
I think she fully understood the gravity of the situation because the El Paso County Sheriff's Office had asked her many times to come in for an interview and to assist in providing some evidence about the location of her stepson's whereabouts.
In terms of other documents that you assisted in retrieving from other law enforcement members, were you part of retrieving rental agreement from Avis Rental? Does that sound familiar to you?
Yes, ma'am, it does.
Okay, and who did you assist in that process, if you did?
No, I was the one who collected the Avis budget rental records in March, on March 20th, I believe.
You're under permission to approach the witness with what has been marked as People's Exhibit 232.
You may, go ahead.
Moment to familiarize yourself with People's Exhibit 232.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you recognize it?
Yes, ma'am. This is a different rental record than the one that I had referred to as collecting in March.
Okay. And when you talk about, you testified as to having contact with Avis, who in particular did you have contact with at Avis? Would have been a manager or somebody at the counter?
I don't recall the name of the person for this particular record. I recall for the other one, but not for this one.
Okay.
May I refer to my report?
You can. That would refresh your recollection.
Yes, ma'am.
And in terms of a specific name, I'm not asking you for a specific name, but just what representative from Avis you had contact with.
Sure.
And it may be helpful just to explain to the jury just the general process of retrieving, for example, a document from a business. How do you go about doing that? That just might be helpful to start.
So yes, the process for collecting evidence from rental car business such as Avis is that I issue a court order or a search warrant addressed to the company in the first place, and then have a judge review the probable cause in the affidavit. And once the judge has signed off on it, I serve it either in person or via some electronic delivery method that's preferred by the company. In this particular case, I did serve the warrant in person because the business was local. The Avis budget rental was at the Colorado Springs Airport.
And to retrieve documents referring to a rental agreement, did you respond to that location?
I did.
And was a representative able to provide you with documentation?
Yes, ma'am. They provided the rental agreement that showed the signed agreement. It had been signed by Letecia Stauch, and I believe it was signed on Tuesday, January 28th, for a it was for a white Kia Rio 4-door sedan. And that vehicle was used for approximately 1 day before it was returned to the same location.
And to be clear, when you're retrieving things, you're retrieving a rental agreement, but are you retrieving documents that come with that rental agreement from that company,
Yes, ma'am.
such as Exhibit 232?
Yes, ma'am.
So can you explain how you recognize what 232 generally is?
I recognize it because I've seen it before during the time I collected it.
Okay. And because you've seen it before, would you say it's a fair and accurate representation of the rental agreement documents you retrieved from the Avis representative that day?
Yes, ma'am.
Your Honor, at this time, we would move for the admission of People's Exhibit 232.
Mr. Delaney, Exhibit 232 will be admitted. Go ahead.
Great. Uh, You collected various financial documents. Did you also have an opportunity to review those financial documents?
Most of them I did, yes.
And overall, were you able to, along with other law enforcement members, able to track movements or charges, if you will, of the defendant through those financial documents?
Yes.
Your Honor, we'll pass the witness.
Cross-examination. Do any of the jurors have any questions for Detective Williams? No? Well, hold on.
Your Honor, I'm sorry.
Are we passing or not passing?
Your Honor, just pursuant to the stipulations that we've already put on the record,
Yes.
that have to deal with USAA records and American Express records, we've already asked for that stipulation to be put on the record.
And it has been, and I assume that this relates to some of that.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. All right. Do any of the jurors have any questions for Detective Williams? No? All right. Thank you, ma'am. You may step down.
And Your Honor, for
Thank
the
you, Your Honor.
purposes of the record, we are admitting People's Exhibit 231, which relates to that stipulation.
Okay. Are you doing that just as part of are you going to have a witness with that, or are you just admitting the exhibit?
We're just admitting the exhibit.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, what we're talking about here is that the parties have reached stipulations regarding various different exhibits. And one of the exhibits is Exhibit 231, right? Exhibit 231, which is referred to as a disc of American Express records. There won't be a witness with that. It will just be records that will be admitted as an exhibit for you to consider that has records from American Express. The parties have admitted or have agreed that the exhibit can be admitted without further evidentiary foundation or testimony. So Exhibit 231 is admitted. Prosecution, coming next witness. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, before we get into the next witness, now's a good time to take a break since we came back a little bit early. So if I can have everyone back in the jury room at say 10 after 3, we should be able to start on time at that point. Again, don't discuss a case among yourselves. Don't discuss a case with anyone else. With that, all rise for the jury, please. Thank you. You may all be seated. Record should reflect the jury has left the courtroom. Is there anything else we need to take up at this point?
No, Your Honor.
No? Okay, all right. Court will be in recess until 3:10. Thank you.
All right, so they're going to take about a 20-minute break. We can recap real quick what has happened this afternoon. First, after they came back from lunch, was a recording between Leticia and a detective, and I believe it was just the day after Gannon went missing. And Leticia tried saying that Gannon may have gone to a friend's. She brought up that she saw that text message regarding bath salts on Gannon's phone. She also told them that Gannon had deleted a lot of his internet search history. She said he had just gotten off restriction from his Switch and that he told her he was going to a friend's to play video games. And that was around 3:15. She said he left somewhere between 3:15 and 4. And during that time, she has said that she was cleaning up the burn area. She said nothing was suspicious other than the bath salts. The bath salts text. The detective told Leticia that that Gannon was listed as a runaway. Leticia didn't try to correct them there. She said that she didn't contact any of Gannon's parents, friends, because that was something Al did, and that she didn't really have any say so as far as telling the kids yes, no, etc. And then, all right, so the next one was Christopher Ganstein. He was a detective sergeant, Metro Vice and Narcotics Unit. And his job at that time was to conduct covert surveillance on January 30th, 2020. And he stated that he observed Harley and Leticia get into a car at their house. Leticia got into the rear passenger seat while Harley drove. And he said while they were driving, Leticia just acted really strange in that back seat. She would, like lay down and sit up and squirm around kind of thing. So they followed Harley and Leticia for about an hour until Harley parked in a shopping center parking lot. And it was right about that same time that they received a warrant for the car and the cell phone. So they put surveillance on them inside the store, and they also placed a team outside. And so when Detective Ganstein went to approach Leticia, she was holding the car keys, and Harley was still inside the Michaels store. He said that Leticia froze and was shocked, and that she was like stuttering and walking backwards. She turned and ran from him, and she threw the car keys across the parking lot as she was running away, which I found interesting. I hadn't heard that before. He said that she was caught, handcuffed, and retained. And then right about that time, Harley was walking out of the Michaels store. And initially, Harley didn't want to give them the phone. So they ripped it out of her hand. Leticia was screaming at Harley not to say anything. She was yelling obscenities, things like that. Harley was crying and hysterical, but the detective said he calmed her down. And he said that after 19 years of being a deputy and because of Leticia's actions, he did not feel she had any kind of mental defect. And then during the defense's cross-examination, he stated that he didn't feel when Harley was driving the car that day that it was indicative of someone that would know they were under surveillance. So, he didn't feel like Harley was doing something wrong. She didn't know they were following them. She wasn't nervously driving. And he said that he had heard that Leticia was a person of interest at the time, but Harley was not a person of interest. And then the next witness was Dr. Leon Kelly. He was the El Paso County coroner and chief medical examiner and an expert in forensic pathology. So he examined Gannon's body in Colorado. And in order to obtain a DNA profile, he had to take a femur, and he used the inner bone marrow and took samples of it. And then obviously, the DNA was positively identified as Gannon. And then he kind of went on and talked about decomposition rates and things like that. They were just trying to get to like the smells and stuff. The defense, kind of had some questions I thought were strange. It almost felt like they were throwing Harley under the bus, maybe, but I don't really know where they were going with that. And then the final witness before they went to break was Marissa Williams. And at the time, she was a detective with the El Paso County Sheriff's Office. And Marissa was in charge of tracking the financials of the Stauchs. She said when she interviewed Leticia, and she interviewed her just a few days after Gannon went missing, that Leticia acted evasive and upset, but not like you would expect, from someone that's missing a child. And she also testified that Leticia was bothered by having to talk to law enforcement and was more concerned about herself and not Gannon. So as we knew, Leticia, she was all about herself, and she basically was not being cooperative with law enforcement. And also, prior to Marissa actually talking with Leticia, detectives had been trying to get a hold of her for her to come into the station, and she wasn't doing it, and she was acting, that she was being put out by having to help it all. So what do you guys think about today so far? What do you think about the witnesses? Did you hear anything that you hadn't previously known about? Anything that like shocked you? I know what shocked me was the fact that she ran from the police in the shopping center parking lot and threw the keys as she did. And he also said that when he walked up on her, she she was in shock. She stopped, but then she kept turning her head backwards and started walking backwards, which, eventually she took off into a run. But she did not want to give up those car keys. Yeah, exactly, Sam. And every person she talked to, she had something different to say. I think what makes me mad too is in a lot of Leticia's excuses and stuff to people. She really tried to make Gannon out to be like this bad kid and stuff. And from everything we've heard, Gannon absolutely was, an adorable 11-year-old. He was not a bad kid at all, but she always throws things in there. Don't you guys think? The judge forgot to mute his microphone, and they're talking about lunch. Let's listen. It's like hot mic.
Can you sell a building for $1 million?
You know what happens when you sell You know what happens when you sell a building for $1 million? You turn around and buy a house.
They don't know that their mic's still on.
I'll adopt them. I'll adopt you. Yeah, I'll adopt you.
You making olive oil cake? You making olive oil cake?
Yes, oh, yeah.
Was it that was bragging? Was it indoor?
Indoor.
No, she was like, holy shit, she brought in this and that. And it was like so good. And she was like,
Mess around in your kitchen.
yeah. Yeah. Findorf. Who signed probably half of these.
It's done a lot of searching.
So we have a print deadline, and it's almost over. So.
Oh, really?
But isn't it always crazy there?
Because they don't start with Trader Joe's. We have a 19 devs together.
I like so don't want them to say something bad, but on the other hand, I kind of do.
I never remember working with Trader Joe's. And then for like
Really?
Same thing with it. If you didn't get your story by 3 o'clock, it wouldn't run. Yeah, it was like, yeah, and because you work at this like, it's like a smaller newspaper. And they always
It's the kayak from where?
Work area. So they expect you to say the average speed. Like right now, there's seals everywhere. And they right don't have stories. Yeah, like obviously.
Yeah, I would.
I would work with those
There's a high-speed chase going on of a one attempted murderer right now. I'm going to switch to that while they keep talking about lunch and what have you. Right, Sam? He's been doing that since the very beginning. Yeah, they don't know that the judge's microphone is still on. They're way better than me because I so would have messed up and said something by now. Oh, what's he gonna do? Oh, it's a female. 2 females. Female and a guy. This is the second car they stole during this one chase. So they like stole another one. They drove it till the rims fell off, and then they got in this car. Oh, I hope he doesn't try to steal another one or go in someone's house. Why is he waving his hands in the air while he's running? Oh, no, he's going to go inside a house. What the heck? Where'd he go? Those guys are all casual, like nothing's happening. Is this normal? Maybe that's his house. That's the guy. I don't see the girl. The camera helicopter went away from the girl. Hands up. I love these police chases. I live for these to come on TV. I wonder if maybe he lived there. Oh, oh. But he wasn't even the driver of the vehicle. He was the passenger that got out. So hopefully the helicopter goes and finds the girl now. No, she didn't, did she, Sam? That would totally be me. I'd be like, hands up. I ain't running nowhere. I don't know if he was the attempted murder suspect or if she was. I'm kind of thinking maybe it's him. But she sure drove the first vehicle till the rims literally fell off. All right, they're back.
For planning purposes, are you guys planning on leaving everything in here over the weekend? It's going to be locked. Shouldn't be anybody in here.
I'm sure we'll leave some things in here. Yeah.
Okay, but I know you guys did a really good job of cleaning stuff out of here Wednesday night, so, but it's up to you.
Okay.
So we're good to leave.
Yeah. All rise for the jury, please.
They must have heard you joke.
I think everybody can see the eternal again.
Yeah.
You know, it's Good
Everybody's getting
Friday.
giddy.
It's Good
Yeah.
Friday.
Yeah.
Hour and 20 minutes.
Thank you. May all be seated. Court will recall 20 CR 1358, People versus Leticia Stauch. Record should reflect the jury has returned to the courtroom. Prosecution, call your next witness, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. We would call Janine Sanchez.
All right.
So just come in. Oh, we'll swear you in. Yeah.
Oh, right. Ms. Sanchez, if you would raise your right hand, please. You swear affirm the testimony about to give in this man will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Go ahead and have a seat in the witness stand. Please watch your step as you step into the stand.
Good afternoon, ma'am. Will you please introduce yourself to our jurors and spell your first and last name for the record?
Yes, my name is Janine Sanchez, Janine Sanchez.
Ms. Sanchez, I want to just do some preliminary stuff with you. You live here in Colorado Springs?
Yes,
And I'm going to talk specifically about January of 2020. So 3 years ago. Where were you living back in January of 2020?
In Lorson Ranch.
Were you familiar with a young lady by the name of Harley Hunt?
Yes.
How did you know Miss Harley Hunt?
So we worked together at Massage Envy, and then we'd occasionally go to Bible study together.
Are you similar in age with her?
I'm about a couple years older than her.
Okay. And you said you worked at Massage Envy. Did you both share the same type of job, or did you have different jobs at that employer?
We were both receptionists.
Would you see each other often at work?
I would say, depending on the shift, yes.
Okay. And then you mentioned that you would sometimes go to Bible studies together. Did you ever hang out any other times outside of work besides those types of gatherings?
No.
Okay. Did you have each other's phone numbers?
Yes.
Would you sometimes text with each other?
Yes.
Would that include potentially sending jokes, memes, TikToks, that kind of thing?
Yes, we would send TikToks to each other.
TikTok is quite controversial these days, isn't it?
Yes.
How would you describe Harley's demeanor?
She was very nice.
Was she social or was she shy?
She was both. She was shy at first, and then once you got to know her, she was more social.
Would you say she had a positive personality or a negative personality?
Positive.
Bubbly or angry?
Bubbly.
Okay. Was she nice to people or mean to people?
She was nice.
And then how would she interact with customers that would come into Massage Envy?
She was really nice to them.
Was she professional also?
Yes.
Had you ever been over to her house?
No.
Prior to a specific time that we're going to get to in just a moment, did you ever have an occasion to meet any of her family members?
No.
Okay. At some point, did you become aware that her younger brother was missing?
Yes.
I'm not asking you for what was said, but did you actually get a text from Harley regarding that specific incident?
Yes.
Do you remember working with her on Wednesday, January 29th?
It was a long time ago, so I don't remember exact dates.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to help you orient yourself, and it makes perfect sense. It's over 3 years ago. We've had previous testimony that Gannon went missing on January 27th, which was a Monday. And then did you talk to a detective in this case?
Yes.
Do you remember talking about the last time you might have worked with Harley with that detective?
Yes.
Okay. And if I showed you that report, would that help you remember what day that was you were referencing last seeing Harley?
Yes.
Okay. Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
You may.
In Sanchez, I'm showing you a police report. And I want you to look at this last paragraph on the page and read through it and then tell me when you're done.
This.
That paragraph, yes.
Yes.
Did that refresh your memory as to the last time you had worked with Harley?
Yes.
What day was that?
The 29th.
Was that Wednesday, January 29th?
Yes.
What was, again, not asking you for any statements that Harley made to you, but what was Harley's demeanor like on that day?
She was a little frantic. Just not her usual self.
Do you remember telling the detective whether she was crying or not?
Yes.
And was she crying in your memory?
Yes.
Okay. At some point, were you with Harley and picked up Harley's mother from the hospital?
Yes.
Tell the jury about that. Again, whose car were you in?
We were in Harley's car.
Who was driving that vehicle?
Harley.
And what seat were you sitting in?
I was in the front seat.
What hospital did you go to pick up her mother?
I'm not sure the name, but it's somewhere around here in the downtown Spring area.
Memorial Hospital, does that sound correct?
I'm not sure.
That's okay. So, but you're just remembering it as a downtown hospital somewhere
Yes.
fairly close to where we are now.
Yes.
Okay. Can you describe as you're in the car with Harley, how she was acting then? Was she still acting like she was crying or upset?
No,
How was she acting now?
just normal.
Okay. Do you remember talking to the detective about how she was acting?
In the car? Or
Yes, while you're in the car with her at the hospital?
I don't remember.
Okay. Do you remember the Harley's mother getting into the car with you?
Yes.
Did Harley's demeanor change when her mother got into the car with you all?
No.
Okay. Do you remember talking to the detective about her, about Harley acting timid and overwhelmed at that time?
Yes.
Was that different than when she was crying earlier?
Yes, she had kind of calmed down a bit in the car versus earlier when she was crying.
Okay. When Harley's mother got into the car, I may have already asked you this, so if I did, I apologize. Where did she get into the car?
In the back seat.
Okay. So did that mean that Harley's still driving, you're in the front passenger seat, and mother is in the back seat?
Yes.
Was she sitting behind you or behind Harley?
In the middle.
In the middle, okay. Do you remember telling the detective anything about whether Harley was quieter or louder than normal during this car ride from the hospital to your house?
We definitely weren't talking for the car ride. It was more just quiet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you remember telling the detective that Harley was quieter than normal?
Yes.
Okay. And I think I've already asked you this in an implied way, but this time that you're now seeing Harley's mother, had you ever seen her before?
No.
Do you see her here in the courtroom?
Yes.
Will you please point her out and describe what she's wearing?
Yes. Pink shirt right in the corner over here.
And you're using your right hand to point over to my
Yes.
left over here?
Yes.
All right, ask to the record reflect that she's identified the defendant.
Record will so reflect. Go ahead.
How would you describe the defendant's demeanor or actions when she got in the car?
Um, what do you mean by that?
Well, how was she acting?
It was my first time meeting her, so I can't really describe how else she would be acting, but I'd say normal.
Okay.
Yeah.
So not doing anything out of the ordinary?
No.
Okay. Do you remember her making any statements to you or just to anybody while she was in the car?
No.
Do you remember talking to the detective about her getting into the car?
Yes.
Do you remember telling the detective that the defendant apologized for having to stay at your house?
Yes.
Do you remember talking to the detective about the defendant's demeanor in the car?
No.
How she's acting?
No.
Okay. You don't remember that at all? Do you remember telling the detective that the defendant was acting weird?
No.
Okay. Do you remember a specific statement that the defendant made to you when she got into the car?
Yes, I do remember that one
Okay.
statement.
And what was that one statement?
Just jokingly how she was joking about saying, um, basically, hope you don't think we're a bunch of murderers.
So the defendant said that to you.
Yes.
Did you find that to be weird?
Yes. But other than that, the demeanor wasn't weird, just that one statement.
Okay. So she wasn't acting like she was losing her mind or anything like that?
No.
Do you remember whether the defendant started using Harley's her cell phone?
Yes.
Tell the jury what you remember about that.
I was in the front passenger seat, and her mom was in the back seat. Harley's mom was in the back seat, and I remember her taking her phone, like Harley's phone, to the back and kind of texting people. I'm not sure who.
So what you remember is that Harley had her phone in the front seat,
Yes,
and then the defendant, did she reach up and take the phone from the front seat?
yes,
And how did you know that she was texting using Harley's phone?
because I was there when she took Harley's phone in the back.
Okay. I guess, could you hear the keyboard clicks or anything like that? Or how did you know that she was sending texts?
She made a remark saying, "Hey, can I see your phone real quick?"
Okay, she being the defendant made that
Yes.
comment. Okay. Did you get a text from Harley's phone while the defendant had Harley's phone?
Yes,
Did that seem odd to you?
very.
Why was that odd?
Because we were all in the car together, so there's really no point to be texting when we were all there.
And what did that text say, if you remember?
Not sure exact wording, but basically if her mom could stay as well.
Did that seem to you to be then that it was almost like Harley was asking you if her mom could stay with you at your house? That's kind of a confusing question, I know.
Yeah. More that Harley had originally asked to stay over and then later on asked if her mom could stay as well.
Okay, but really it was her mom asking on her own using Harley's phone if she could stay.
Yes.
Did that seem weird to you since you're sitting right there and it could have been verbally said as opposed to texted?
Yes.
Do you remember a particular time when the defendant said something about turning off location services?
Yes.
Tell the jury about that.
It's been a while, but I remember that they had turned off Harley's location service basically on her phone.
Okay, so let's dive into that just a little bit more. Is this while the defendant has Harley's phone?
I do not remember.
Okay. What does location services mean to you?
Just basically seeing where someone's at based off of Google Maps.
Okay. Do you remember the defendant making a statement while holding Harley's phone that she was turning off Harley's cell phone location services?
I do not.
Okay. If I show you a report, would that refresh your memory?
Yes.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
You may, go ahead.
Yes.
Just read this whole paragraph.
Yes.
That refresh your memory?
Yes.
So do you remember the defendant making a comment about turning off location services?
Yes.
What did the defendant say about that
Just that she was turning off her location on her phone.
on Harley's phone?
Yes.
And do you remember her saying because she had to?
Yes.
And then what did the defendant do with Harley's phone after that?
After turning off the location,
Yes.
I believe she still had her phone.
Okay. Do you remember telling the detective that she then passed the phone back to Harley?
I do not remember.
Okay.
Sorry.
If I show you the report again, would that refresh?
Yes.
Okay. And I know this has been a long time, so don't worry about it.
Okay.
Did that refresh your memory?
Yes.
So after the defendant turned off Harley's cell phone location services, do you remember the defendant passing Harley's phone back to Harley?
Yes.
Do you remember while you were still at the hospital, the defendant making a statement about evidence being found?
Yes.
What did she say about that?
She was just kind of talking about how they thought they had found evidence on her.
And then also, did she mention finding evidence at the house? Do you remember that?
I do not.
Okay, if I show you the report again, would that
Yes.
refresh your memory? Okay. You're just getting my steps in.
Sorry. Just want to make sure it's accurate. Yes.
Do you remember the defendant making a mention about there being evidence found at the house?
Yes.
What did she say about that?
Just about like the carpet situation, how there was like a fire with the carpet.
Okay. Hold on just a moment. And again, I'm not asking you for any comments from Harley Hunt at this point, but did the defendant ever say anything to you about why her and her daughter wanted to stay at your house?
So Harley was just wanting to stay at my house because she didn't really feel comfortable at her own house. I'm not really sure why her mom wanted to stay at my house. With the whole texting thing, that was kind of odd, but we were already at my house, so I just let them both stay.
Was it strange to you that both Harley and her mom were now staying at the house as opposed to just Harley as originally arranged?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Did it make it even more strange that this is also at the time that Harley's young little brother was also missing?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Oh, wait a second. Good question. How was her behavior, the defendant's behavior at your house?
Really, we just walked into my house, talked for a little bit, and then I let them get settled in the living room, and then I just went upstairs.
Okay, so you have a two-story house?
It's technically a 3, but the basement's unfinished.
Okay, so is your bedroom upstairs?
On the 2nd floor,
And then,
technically the 3rd floor.
okay,
Yeah.
and then where did they stay, Harley and her mother?
On the 2nd floor, when you first enter the ground level.
Okay, did you hear any strange noises the night that they stayed the night there?
No.
Did the defendant do anything out, that didn't make any sense or loud or anything like that?
No.
Did she act as if any other house guest would act while she was there?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Cook, cross-examination.
I don't have any questions for this witness. Thank you.
All right. Do any of the jurors have any questions for Ms. Sanchez? No? All right. Thank you, ma'am. You may step down. Watch your step. Prosecution, call your next witness, please.
Good afternoon, Judge. We'd call Nicole Mobley. Just gonna cross Nicole. You guys want me? You want to look at this?
Ms. Mobley, if you would step forward and raise your right hand, please, ma'am.
You're just gonna right up to that.
Right there is fine for right now. Do you swear from the testimony about to give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Go ahead and have a seat in the witness stand. Please watch your step as you step into the stand.
Good afternoon. How are you?
I'm okay. How are you?
You're a little nervous, right?
Just a little bit.
It's okay. You're not the only one, okay?
Okay.
Could you please introduce yourself to the jury and spell your first and last name?
Nicole Mobley, Nicole Mobley.
And Miss Mobley, where do you reside?
Lorson Ranch.
See what's been introduced in evidence is People's Exhibit 4. Recognize this at all?
Yeah, it's my neighborhood.
Let me see if I can get this easy over here. We're gonna put it on the ESO here, and I don't know if can you still see it?
Yeah.
And I don't need you to be precise, but can you just point out the general area of where you live, if you can see this in People's Exhibit 4? Here you go. I'm gonna give you this.
I'd be over here somewhere.
So for the record, you pointed to Mumford Drive in between Tarbell Drive?
Yeah, I'm on Decker, but the school's right here and my house would be like over in the section kind of by it.
Okay, great. How long have you lived there?
2 years? No, I'm sorry. That's way off. 3.5, almost 4 years.
So you were living there back in January of 2020?
Yes.
And while you were living in that neighborhood, did you have an occasion to meet someone named Letecia Stauch?
I did.
And tell the jury about how you met her.
So I think the first time I had posted a thing on our neighborhood page, I was looking for clothes for my niece that just moved in with us. And I had got a message from a Harley Hunt is who I thought I was speaking to. And then they offering some free clothes for us. And when the person actually showed up to my house to drop off those clothes, it was Leticia.
Okay. You talked about a neighborhood. How did you describe it? Was it a Facebook page?
Yeah, we have a lot of neighborhood like Facebook pages that are just for people in the neighborhood. I don't know if I put it on the residence page or like one of the for sale pages, but it's just everybody in the neighborhood.
And I know you're a little nervous that only one of us can talk at a time.
Mhm.
She's typing everything we're saying, believe it or not. And so if you could just wait until I'm done and I'll wait till you're done.
Okay.
We'll do the best we can.
Okay.
Is that fair?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So someone named Harley Hunt responds to your page. Is that what happens?
Yes. I assumed it was Harley Hunt.
And did you then make arrangements for them to come by your house?
Yeah, to come drop them off at my house.
Okay, so tell us about that. Did someone come by your house?
Yes, Leticia came by my house.
And what happened when she came to your house?
She knocked on the door. Initially, she was just supposed to leave them on the porch, but I ended up being at home. She knocked on the door. I opened it. She handed me the clothes and we had a conversation.
And do you see Leticia Stauch in the courtroom today?
I do, yes.
Could you point her out and describe what she's wearing?
She's sitting at the end of that desk in a pinkish purple shirt.
Okay. Only female seated at the defense table?
Yes.
May the record reflect identification of Ms. Stauch subject to cross-examination.
Record will still reflect. Go ahead.
So what happened when the defendant came to your residence?
She came to the door, handed me the clothes, and then we just had a conversation. It was a little weird. I didn't know her. I had never met her before that. And I was kind of off put first because I thought I was meeting a Harley Hunt. And it obviously wasn't, but she didn't introduce herself as to who she was. And it was just kind of weird because I didn't know her and she was kind of just talking to me about life stuff and like we had been best friends.
Okay.
So it was a little off-putting, but.
And do you remember about when this may have happened?
It was right before Christmas, probably December 20 something. It was before Christmas of 2019.
So it would have been December 2019?
Yeah.
Was it the Christmas before you later learned that Gannon went missing?
Yes.
Okay. And so was there anything unusual about this initial contact other than it seemed like she was spilling her guts to you?
No, not really.
Okay. Did you have more conversation with her?
I did. She wrote me later on telling me she had forgot a pair of pants. That was just nothing. The next time was a couple days later on Christmas. She had sent me another message.
And what was that message about? Do you recall?
Yeah, she said that she was going on a work trip, that she worked for an airline and she needed to go to a training, and had asked if my teenage niece wanted to go over and basically watch the house, but also hang out with her teenage daughter.
And so did you learn that she had a teenage daughter when you initially met her at your house in December of 2019?
I kind of put it together considering she wasn't Harley Hunt, and that's who I was like that was the name of the person I was messaging, and she kept saying my daughter in those messages.
And did you have a teenage daughter?
My niece was a teenager.
Okay. And so did the conversation come up back in December 2019 that, hey, maybe your niece and my daughter could get together, that kind of thing?
Yeah, she said that her daughter Harley didn't really have any friends because she didn't go to school here. So she needed somebody to watch her house and help with the dogs, and that it would be maybe a good way for them to kind of hang out too.
Right. And did that ever happen?
I didn't feel comfortable with it because I didn't know her and I wasn't sending my niece to somebody else's house.
And was your niece living with you at that time?
She was, yes.
All right. When was the next time you heard from Miss Stauch?
The next time I heard from her, or the next time I had any communication?
Well, either. Had you talked to her, let me just ask it this way. Had you talked to her prior to Gannon being reported missing?
No.
So it was just the
Or
two.
not that I recall.
Sorry.
I don't think so.
And so how did you learn that Gannon Stauch, her stepson, went missing?
There was a post on one of those neighborhood pages saying that, I don't remember exactly what it said. It's been a long time. I just remember there was a post that went up saying that her son or stepson didn't return home from a friend's house, and basically asking for help if anybody had seen him or could help find him.
And so prior to seeing that post, had you and the defendant talked about the defendant's family situation, who was living in their house, how many kids and that kind of thing?
I don't, not that I remember.
You only remember her talking about Harley, the teenage daughter?
I remember when she was at my house that first time, that weird conversation that we kind of had was talking about weird things, just like, I'm trying to remember exactly what it was. No, because that, I do remember. So when she was asking if we would come and stay, or if my niece could come and stay at the house, she had mentioned her husband works nights and is in the Army and is gone a lot. She mentioned Harley because of hanging out with my niece. And then she mentioned, I think it was the little girl, talking about her going to Grand Mountain, but I think that's it. I don't remember hearing anything else.
And when you say talking about weird things, what do you mean?
I just mean, I didn't know her, but she kind of talked to me like I knew her and just being frustrated at home life. It was a very short conversation. It was just, I think to me, the reason it's weird is because if I don't know someone, I don't usually start talking about things like I know them and like I should know what they're talking about.
So was it like, way too much information here?
Yeah, kind of. And I'm used to, in the neighborhood, we do porch drop-offs. So you don't usually have to communicate with the person. They drop it off and leave. I'm not a very sociable person when I'm in the comfort of my home. And it was just kind of, thanks, have a great night kind of thing. Not, I want to stand on the porch in the cold for 20 minutes.
Gotcha. So let's talk about when you see the post about Gannon being missing. What did you do next?
Told my husband, and he just knows how I am. So he was like, do you want to go? Do you want to go help look? So we did. We got dressed in warm clothes and we headed out and went to start looking.
And would this have been on the night of January 27th, 2020?
Yes.
And approximately what time was it that you went out looking? Do you remember?
I don't remember what time we started. I don't remember.
Was it nighttime out?
It was nighttime.
What was the weather like?
Freezing. I think it started snowing while we were out there because I remember being soaking wet and it was absolutely freezing out.
Was there any plans or any areas that people were looking? I mean, this post that you saw, did you have a game plan on where you were going to go look and things like that?
So there weren't really any plans like communicated with anybody. I think thinking of the age of the boy, it was, let's go look by the school. Let's go to any of the parks in the neighborhood. And then let's go look over by the house. And then we have these like ditches that are in the neighborhood that a lot of kids like to go down and play under. So it was just kind of staying in that general area. Okay, if my, kid was to go roaming off and hanging out with friends, where would they go? So we just kind of went based off of that.
And so you indicated that you thought it might be a good idea to go look at his house, Gannon's house. Would that have been 6627?
Yes.
People's Exhibit 4 there, we have a big label that says 6627 Mandan Drive. Is that the area we're talking about?
Yeah, there's a lot of like field where you can see there's not really any houses. Majority of what we did was in those fields.
And so were there other people out looking in the neighborhood?
There was a bunch.
No, you probably didn't count them, but approximately how many?
I'd say 40 at least. I mean, there were people out there with drones. There was a lot of people.
Flashlights?
Flashlights, vehicles, drones, people on feet. Excuse me. There were some people out there with dogs. I mean, it was like an unorganized / organized search is what it looked like.
And so best you know, was everyone reacting to this Facebook post about, it's okay, about a child being missing in the neighborhood?
Oh, yes, most definitely.
The neighborhood's kind of coming together?
Yes.
And did you talk to other people as you're searching and you're all searching for the same person?
Oh, yeah.
When you're in the area of 6627 Mandan Drive, did you stop by and see Miss Stauch, or was Miss Stauch out searching in that area, or do you remember?
I didn't stop by her house. I thought it was kind of weird because we're all out here looking, and it was very obvious that she was at her house and not out here looking.
Why was that obvious?
I'm trying to remember exactly how. I mean, there was a lot of people that were going up to her house, and she was opening the door, and you could just tell lights were on. I mean, plus I met majority of everybody that was out there, and none of them were her.
And obviously you had met her before, and so did you tie it together that Gannon Stauch was living in the same house with Leticia Stauch?
Yeah, as soon as the post went up on the neighborhood page, I recognized her right away.
Was she a picture of her on the post?
Not on the post, like her Facebook picture.
Oh, okay. And so as you're out that neighborhood, did you ever see any police cars coming to 6627 Mandan Drive?
I don't remember seeing any when I was there.
How long were you out there, do you think?
Hours. We were out until about 2, 3 a.m.
Oh, so you went in that into the early morning hours of the 28th.
Oh, yeah. By the time we got home, we had mud all the way up our legs, our arms. We were covered.
And were people out there pretty consistently until the early morning hours looking, or?
It died down a lot, probably around midnight. I mean, it did get really cold. If I remember correctly, I think it started snowing. So some people, I think, did have to kind of start giving up. So at that time, like, as long as we went, there was probably maybe a handful of us at that point.
And so into the 28th of January, 2020, did you continue to follow the progress of the case, the Facebook postings and things like that?
I did, to an extent.
Tell us about that.
I tried not to read into, or I guess look too much into the drama stuff that was going on through it. I tried to focus on the facts of things that were going on, or posts that were made directly from the defendant.
A lot of drama and
a lot
speculation and things like that on social media.
Oh, yeah.
Was the media reporting pretty heavily on Gannon's disappearance as well?
Yes.
Were you watching that?
Yes, those things I would.
Did you reach out to Miss Stauch and offer her to help or do anything in any way?
That was another thing that kind of set me off. The night that he went missing, I had sent her a message. I cannot remember what I said in it, but I remember it was something trying to get information like where we should be looking, and she blocked me immediately.
What kind of message did you send her? Was it a text? Was it social media? Was it a phone message? How did you try to reach her?
Facebook Messenger.
And prior to that, had you been messaging on Facebook?
For the previous times that we spoke, it was Facebook, yes.
And did you ever talk to her about why she blocked you or anything like that?
Well, she blocked me, so I couldn't. I know my husband sent her a message saying, I don't understand why you blocked my wife. We're just trying to help you. Is there something you have against her? Like, what's going on? But we never got a response.
Did you continue to progress or watch the progress in the investigation to see whether or not Gannon was found, that kind of thing?
I did. I also, any search party that they had, we had like blue ribbon ceremonies, different things that we did. I participated in everything.
Do you recall seeing the defendant, Ms. Stauch, being interviewed on KKTV during this time frame?
I do.
What do you recall from that interview?
Can you, as in, like, what do you mean? I don't know how I'm supposed to answer that one.
No, you answer it truthfully. I mean, did that spark anything and want you to be involved in the investigation based on what you saw her say during that interview?
The first thing that stood out to me, I think, with that interview is she didn't face the camera. And then there was a lot of, in my opinion, it sounded like her speaking in past tense when she would mention Gannon. But I also thought it was really weird that a majority of that newscast was her worrying about what people thought about her instead of worrying about where Gannon was.
And did that trigger your personality as to want to know more or find out more about what had happened to Gannon based on everything you're seeing, not only this interview, but the post on social media and things like that?
Most definitely.
Was there a point in time where you tried to reach out to Ms. Stauch again via some Facebook pages?
I did, yes.
And what kind of Facebook pages did you reach out to? Do you recall?
Do you mean which one of hers or what? What do you mean?
Well, was there a Facebook page called Support E or Ms. Stauch or something?
Yeah, there were several pages. I don't know if I communicated with her on any of her responses that were happening on those pages. I might have made comments to other people, but I don't remember if I communicated with her on those. I just know that I reached out to her on personal Facebook Messenger.
Is this the same Facebook page that you were blocked on previously or another Facebook page?
Another one.
Do you recall the name of that?
I think it might have been, it was either Leticia Stauch or T Stauch.
Okay. Did you get a response?
No, not initially.
When you say not initially, does that mean you eventually got a response?
Yes, I ended up creating a fake Facebook page and
Talk about that. Why did you do that?
I wanted to see if I could get her to respond to me. And I knew she wouldn't on my original page.
And why did you want her to respond to you?
I felt like the conversation that we had on my front porch the first time that I met her, I kind of could figure out ways to get her to communicate with me based off of her, like the kind of things that she wanted to talk about. So I figured if I wrote her on a different page and could get her to start talking, if I worded things properly, I might be able to get her to start talking to me.
So did that happen?
It did.
Tell the jury about that. What did you put in the Facebook page Messenger to get her to start talking to you?
I went on and kind of based it off or started writing things based off of things that I had seen in the news or on social media, like things that she was saying. She had a lot of, I think, hate for Landon. And I think that I kind of started off with a combination of agreeing with her about things that involve Landon. And I also, there was a video that came out about a truck in a shadow. And I also wrote her saying I believed her about the shadow under the truck.
And is this video the video of when Ms. Stauch and Gannon come back on the afternoon of January 27th, 2020, and you see a leg drop on the other side of the truck?
Yes.
That's posted on the internet?
Yes.
Is that what you're talking about?
That's the video, yes.
The shadow is actually a leg coming down?
Yes.
And Ms. Stauch was saying, who did that leg belong to?
She told me it was Gannon.
Did you eventually continue communications with Ms. Stauch via text?
Yeah, so I continued on Facebook Messenger, and then eventually we did make it onto a texting app.
Tell us about the texting app. Whose idea was it to use a texting app?
She had asked me to download a texting app on my phone so that we could talk more privately.
And was this on February 19th of 2020?
I'm pretty sure, yes.
Did you go to the police department fairly shortly after this string of text messages?
I don't remember how long it was, but I feel like it was pretty soon after that, yes.
If a report indicates that you went to the police department on Friday, February 21st, 2020,
Sounds right.
would that be accurate?
Yes,
And when you went there, did you take your phone with you?
I did.
And did you provide your phone to law enforcement so they can take screenshots of this text messages that you're having?
I did. They took it for several weeks.
And would you recognize those text messages if you saw them again?
Yes.
May I approach the witness, Your Honor?
You may.
And what's been marked as People's Exhibit 30 or 233. And within that exhibit, there's 33 pages. Do you see those?
I do, yes.
If you could take a moment and go through those 33 pages, and I'll ask you some follow-up questions.
Okay.
Have you had a chance to do that?
Yes.
I want to talk about the first 31 pages.
Okay.
Are those messages that you exchanged with the defendant, Ms. Stauch, on February 19th, a Wednesday, from 9:59 in the morning to 11:48 in the morning?
Yes.
The second to last page, is that a text message that you exchanged with a Harley Hunt?
Yes.
And is that your text message as well, the one to Harley Hunt?
It is.
The last page, page 33, is that a text message that you sent to your husband?
It is.
Is the message that you wrote to your husband accurate? Is that what you said after this text screen that you had with the defendant?
Yes.
Okay. Are now back to the original 33 pages. I think I've already asked you that. Is that a true and accurate depiction of the conversation you had with Ms. Stauch back on February 19th, 2020?
Yes, sir.
Move to admit People's Exhibit 233.
Objection. Exhibit 233 will be admitted. Go ahead.
Request to publish.
You may. Go ahead.
We can zoom in. Thanks. You can either look at the TV screens or actually look at the notebook, whatever you're more comfortable doing.
Okay.
We're on the page 1 here. Before we talk about page 1, what was your motivation here? Why were you trying to get her to talk?
Sometimes I get this impression of myself that I can get people to tell me things that other people can't. So I just wanted to give it a shot.
When you're talking to the defendant here, had Gannon been found yet?
No.
Were you trying to find Gannon?
Yes.
Were you trying to get information from her so that Gannon can be found?
Yes.
The top of the text says Barbie girl. You know who Barbie girl is?
It was Leticia.
And did you know that that was her name through the Facebook messaging before you started this text app?
I didn't know that like, she didn't tell me the name, but it was the phone number.
And it says Wednesday at 9:59. Is that approximately when this all started?
Yes,
And that would have been February 19th?
yes.
So when it says to verify it's you, what was your real first name, LOL? Is that Ms. Stauch talking?
Yes, sir.
And prior to getting this string of messages, were you certain that that was Ms. Stauch who you were talking to?
Yes, sir. We did a thing on previous messages where I had asked her something. I don't remember what it was, but to validate it was her, that only she would know, and she did that.
And is she now validating who you are?
Yes, sir.
I.e. Nicole is what you respond?
Yes.
So if we can scroll down a little bit. And again, everything that you say is going to be in green, right?
Yes.
She's saying, yeah. Go ahead, and what does she say?
That she was realizing who I was, verifying that that's.
She said, okay, so listen, I didn't hurt my son or kill him or anything. I want you to know that. I also want to know that I can trust you on here.
Yes.
How did you take that?
I guess kind of in a couple ways, that obviously she knows something, but that I needed to work really hard to gain her trust and maybe I could get her to tell me something. I don't know.
And so how did you respond? Go ahead and read that.
100%. If you look up both my real profile and my fake on any of the Gannon pages, you will see I've been pointing out the shadow and I have not bashed you.
So is that what we're talking about? The leg drop that we see January 27th when they get home?
Yes, sir.
And why did you tell her this?
So there was a lot of drama and things that were going on. People trying to zoom, like on social media, zooming in and trying to determine if there was a shadow or a leg. Because there was a lot of, well, we didn't see him come home. So she, I think at one point was involved in some of that communication, trying to push that. So I knew if I reached out and said, I believe you, this is what I saw, that she would start to trust me.
And so, just so we're clear, there's a video that was posted on the internet that sees the defendant and Gannon get in a truck and leave about 10, 13 in the 7.
Yes, sir.
And then there's also a video that comes back. The truck backs up into the driveway. You can't see the other side of the truck. All right.
Correct.
You see Ms. Stauch get out of the driver's side.
Yes.
And then that's when you see this leg drop on the other side. And there were people saying Gannon never came home with her, so she must have did something.
Yeah, there was a lot of videos, people circling it and saying that's not a shadow or that's not a leg, trying to say that some people thought he came home and some people didn't. So it was a lot of back and forth on that.
So that's what's going on in social media. And so that's how did you want to gain her trust by saying, hey, I'm with you on this, that type of thing?
Yeah, she wanted to make sure she could trust me. And the only thing I could think of is if I went along with the lines of certain things that were going on in the moment, and I was on her side for that part, that I would gain that trust.
Okay. And so she responds, thank you. I do need some help, though, and I could help you in return. Before you think, this isn't anything bad or anything like that. You recall that?
I do.
What did you think that was all about?
I didn't really know where she was going with it. Let me think on that. I'm sorry.
Well, we can scroll down and see what your response is.
Yeah.
So now we're on page 2 of that exhibit. So your response is, just to show you what I've said to my own family in the past about all this. Can't make out. Looks like you attached something to the text.
Yeah, I think I attached something that like a message I might have sent to somebody else talking about it. I don't remember, but I'm pretty sure it was just like, look, I'm showing you. I even told somebody in my family I believed you.
Is that again to gain her trust?
Yes.
So how does she respond after you do that?
Did you want me to read it?
Yes.
Okay. If I had did this, I couldn't have gone but so far and they would have found him. But they are focusing on me, wasting valuable time.
Says thank you.
Thank you.
And then what do you say?
Okay, what do you need help with? I definitely don't think you would ask me to do anything bad, so it's okay.
Then what does she say?
Oh, sorry.
No, it's
So
okay.
I want you to tell the truth.
Then you respond, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Go to page 3. And some of these are kind of repetitive just because of the way they did the screenshots, so bear with me. So you say okay, and then what does she say?
Someone was in the home when we got back. I gave this to police at my initial interview, but I thought he was being defiant and just going against his dad's wishes, leaving. I blacked out.
What do you take from that?
Well, I didn't believe it. But I don't know. I didn't believe what she was saying. I was kind of just waiting for a story to come.
Is this the first you had heard about someone else being in the house?
It is. As far as I remember, yes.
First you heard of her blacking out?
Yes.
Up until February 19th, 2020, did you just think Gannon was missing, or what was your thoughts about what had happened to Gannon?
I had hoped he was just missing, but from the very first night, I just had a bad feeling.
We can scroll down, please. Oh, so you respond, so blacked out before he left, because I'm a mom and I know how that is. Says I've done it and reacted. You mean to say reacted?
Yes.
With my kids and situations. I just did it with my house flooded. What do you mean by that?
So I think in my head, I was thinking maybe a situation happened and she overreacted and something might have happened. So I wanted to kind of play on that and say, look, I'm a mom. I've overreacted in situations. My house had just flooded. So I could have overreacted in that situation. So I was just kind of, I think, trying to play along with it.
You didn't know what was going to come next, I take it?
I had no idea.
And so what does she say next?
I am beginning to think that the guy was still in the home when police came. Either way, he popped back up with Gannon, so I'm assuming they were in the storage room. He threatened me, and I put them girls upstairs to protect them.
And she says,
Yeah.
And you asked her who was the guy.
Yes.
How'd she respond?
You want me to read it?
Yeah.
Okay. He took a suitcase and some of our things and Gannon's things, and I was crying. Then he hit me across the head.
So is this the first you heard of a suitcase?
Very first time, yeah.
And how did you respond to that? And why did you respond the way you did?
This is why the cops are being the way they are. They knew you didn't do it, and that's why they are being so quiet. I knew you were innocent. So I responded in that way because, once again, I'm trying to keep her thinking that I'm on her side so that she'll continue telling me more.
So how does she respond to you saying that?
Someone had to see him leaving with a suitcase and G. I don't know if she, I assume was he, was hurt when he did. I was scared. Someone has to be a witness to having seen this guy. Someone had to and is scared.
So as you're out there, night of the 27th, searching the fields and the ditches and the whole neighborhood around their residence, anybody carrying a suitcase walking around?
Not at all. I would have questioned that.
Would Anybody stop that person, strange man in the neighborhood?
In a heartbeat. Our neighborhood has cameras everywhere, and you can't be a guy selling solar panels walking up to somebody's door without somebody posting, who's this weirdo at my door?
We can zoom in on the next page, please. So she said someone has to be a witness to having seen this guy. Someone had to and is scared. Then you say, can I ask you this? You think Landon sent this guy?
Yes.
How does she respond?
I will do anything to find that person, but I don't know how. She could have, and then things may have went wrong.
Now, had you gotten to know Landon and Al and Lena and the rest of the family from efforts that were going on in the neighborhood to try to find Gannon?
I remember, I think I met a few of them maybe once for a very small amount of time. I think there was an aunt and Lena at one of the events that I got to play with Lena and do a few things with, but I didn't get to know them, no.
Was there a church in the neighborhood that was heavily involved in the search effort, and people would meet at the church and discuss things and try to find Gannon?
Yeah, we would do it at the church, but we also had a point when right off of Mandan, there's that field, and we actually set up tables with food and snacks and waters, and everybody would gather there and do search parties. And I think that's where I did most of my communication, the one time that I think I spoke with a couple of them.
So why did you ask her if she thought Landon was involved?
It was made very clear, and I don't remember how, if it was social media or what it was, but that she didn't like Landon. So I think I was trying to play off of, okay, well, she doesn't like her. So if I start talking about Landon, it pulls her in more because I'm kind of siding with her.
Okay. We can scroll down, please. And you say, I've been thinking she sent someone to get both kids.
Yes.
Same thing?
Same thing.
You're trying to draw more information out of her?
Yeah. And that's what I had met in the previous, or when she had said things may have went wrong in the previous one, I'm sitting here thinking, okay, if I play off of, okay, maybe Landon sent somebody down here and it didn't go right. They were only able to get the one kid, and you know what I mean? Kind of played it off.
And then she responds to that, says, but Lena was gone, so he couldn't.
Yes.
And did you know who Lena was?
At this point, yeah, I did.
Was that Gannon's 8-year-old little sister?
Yes.
And you asked her, how did he get into the house? Did he force his way, or did he act like he was there for a reason? Do you recall asking her that?
I do, yes.
Trying to get more information?
Yes.
And how did she respond to that? Can you read that for us?
When we went in through the garage, I went into the bathroom. So either already in there or came gate. Maybe G had seen him before. That's why he kept checking the gate to make sure it was locked.
And then what's the next thing you asked?
Do you think the detectives believe you but have to act the way they are so this guy doesn't know they are onto him?
Where'd that come from?
Again, just I think I had heard things of her talking about, I did actually, I think some of it might have even been in the news. She was really against those detectives. So I wanted to play off of, well, maybe the detectives are just doing this as a ploy. They're going to try and make it seem like you so that nobody's focusing on this other person.
Doesn't make any sense though, does it? Does that make any sense to you as to why the police would do that?
No, not at all.
So are you just basing on things that she posted on Facebook about the incompetence of the El Paso County Sheriff's Office or something like that?
I'm playing off of anything that has either been said by her on Facebook or the thing on the news.
Okay. And how does she respond to that?
Not sure. I think they don't have anything on Ring cameras. Someone had to see him leave. I need a witness. Any amount. Do whatever for them if they come forward. They need to start looking for the guy and posting it on our states. It's just on our states. I don't know.
Okay. And then how did you respond to that?
Oh my God, I'm telling you, I think Landon did this to try to get her kids back, and it went wrong. So now she is using this to get money for her nasty habits. Poor Gannon, I really hope he isn't being tortured.
Where are you getting this information from?
Posts. There were things that were going around about Landon potentially having a certain kind of background. Why was Gannon and Lena in, out their custody anyways? So I kind of just played off of that because again, I knew that she didn't like Landon.
Were these posts that were in this support T Stauch website or Facebook page?
I'm
people
pretty
who were supporting her.
I'm pretty sure it was. Yeah.
And how did she respond to that? Can we scroll down, please?
And get off me. He would have been found close by if it was the killer. I couldn't have went far. I think something went wrong now. It's been too long. She would have had him come back and then tried to say we were bad parents by now.
Now, what do you think she meant? Can we please leave that up? What did you think she meant when she said he may be close by if I was the killer?
Object to, she can,
Yeah,
that's a
sustain.
speculation.
It goes to her response to this.
Well, no, she can't testify as to what somebody else was thinking. She can testify as to what somebody else said and why she undertook a certain course of action, but she can't testify to what somebody else was thinking.
What was going through your mind when you heard her say, if I would have killed him, he would have been close by?
Just trying to think of how to answer that the right way without going against it.
Was this the first time you ever heard her say anything about if I was the killer?
Yes, 100%. I'd never heard anything about him being killed prior to this.
Can we scroll down now, please, to see what your response is? So you respond, did Gannon seem like he knew him? Or was he acting scared when he was talking?
Taking him.
Taking him, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Is that how you responded?
Yes.
Now, above that, she says, I think something went wrong now. It's been too long. She would have had him come back and tried to say we were bad parents by now. Now, I think he may be out of state. All that?
I do, yes.
Is this the first time you ever heard her say anything about Gannon being out of state?
Yes.
And did you later learn that Gannon's body was found in the state of Florida?
I did.
Go to the next page, next page, please. So she responded to when you asked if Gannon knew him, he didn't act like he knew him. Do you recall that?
I do, yes.
And what else did she say?
The guy did say friends with Uncle Matt, but I don't know if that is real. He doesn't have an uncle named that on our side.
And how did you respond to that?
Oh my God, see, this is what I was thinking. And I told my husband, I think bio mom did this. Does Landon have anyone she knows named Matt that she says is like a brother?
And again, why are you saying this?
Again, just to,
And how did she respond to that?
I need a witness that the guy left. I will do anything. I'm not asking you. I'm asking if you know anyone who will. I will give them my life, a reward, whatever. Anything to get them to expand the search.
And how did you respond to that?
Did he ask where the little girl was, or what did he say to you?
So she says, he said, is that your daughter at the door? You recall that?
I do, yes.
And then says, but I sent her to the mailbox.
Yes.
Do you know who she's referring to when she says daughter?
Yes, Lena. Lena.
I'm losing my mind because they need to look for the description of the guy. They need to expand and put up alerts in states. My heart is breaking.
Yes.
What was going through your mind at this time as far as how you're going to respond to get more information?
I think this time it might have taken me a little bit to kind of think about it. I guess I had kind of got thrown off because earlier she had said when I had made when I had said something about maybe Landon had something to do with this and intended to come get both kids, the defendant's response was, but couldn't because Lena wasn't home. But then all of a sudden it's, well, Lena, is that your daughter at the door? So I was just kind of trying to think of things to try and play off kind of what she was saying. But I definitely was really at this point like, okay, something's not right here.
We can scroll down, please. So go ahead and read what you say there in green at 30 now on page 13.
Okay, let me think on this. On a way to help. I've been on the news and I know I can't just all of a sudden say that, but I will help figure this out or something. Who can help? Just give me a little time to think. I will help. Anything to get him found. I'm so sorry to go through that and then be accused. I can't imagine how you feel. I'm here for you.
And then she responds, you were on the news?
Yes,
Were you on the news?
I was, yes.
What were you doing on the news and what were you saying?
I was one of the searches I think that we had at the school. We did a search and maybe it wasn't a search. I think it was like a ribbon thing. We did a bunch of blue ribbons that we put all over the school. And the news had asked me to go up and speak about searching, like locations and things.
Were the blue ribbons, what were those all about? Why were there blue ribbons?
We turned the whole neighborhood blue for Gannon.
Is that his favorite color?
I think it was his favorite color, but he also loves Sonic.
We can scroll down, please. And she says, and whatever they need, they're going to have to pay me for defamation, civil rights violations, etc. But for now, I need him home. I need my boy home.
Yes.
How did you respond to that? Let's go to the next page, please.
Yes, my husband and I went out the first night till, I think it says 2 a.m.
Yeah,
And
go ahead now.
then I went out every day for a week looking.
Now, when you say that, how does she respond?
That's when the guy left. He took a suitcase of things and made Gannon wrapped in his cover. He hit me in the head, and then I don't know if they got in a car or what. When I got back up, I was in complete shock and crying. And when I told the police they think I'm crazy, that someone could have been there when they arrived. In my questioning, they will like, no way. In my questioning, we like, no way the police didn't know he was there. I mean, heck, I didn't know.
So was she trying to tell you that Gannon and this man were in the house while the police were in the house?
Yes.
How'd you respond to that?
As in the message?
Yes.
Okay. So they never even tried to look into any of what you said. WTF is wrong with law enforcement. They could have found him, but to me, they didn't even try.
You're not saying welcome to Fruta when you say WTF, I take it?
No.
Just wanted to clarify. All right.
I also didn't know if I could say the other word. So
WTF is fine. If we can go to the next page, please. So she responds to that by saying that's when the guy left. He took a suitcase of things and made Gannon wrapped in a cover. Yeah, we need to go to this one.
I thought those pages look the same.
One more duplicate because we didn't catch all the
Yes.
screenshots. So in response to your WTF comment, she says, nope, They were like, it was someone you were cheating with, dumb stuff. I'm telling you, when this is said and done, I will have a heck of a lawsuit from them. Do you recall her saying that?
I do, yes.
What does she continue on to say?
I've already been asked by some attorneys if my innocence prevails, then to be the first to see them. I even took a lie detector test. I wouldn't ask if I didn't need the help. I am trusting that you don't say anything about our convo. I am innocent. He is my son.
What did you think about when she says, I hope that you wouldn't say anything about our conversation or comment?
I'm sorry, say that one more time.
Well, what was going through your mind when she says, I am trusting that you don't say anything about our combo?
That she's probably getting ready to open up and say more.
Did you get the impression that she was going to be asking you to do something at this?
I did, yes.
What was that?
Lie for her.
So you respond. How?
I did meet a guy that night that freaked me out so bad I had to leave with strangers to get away from him. I wish I knew how to show you what he looked like, but I don't have pictures.
Tell us about that. Did you meet some guy out there while you're searching?
I did.
What was that all about? Tell the jury.
All that was about is I was out there with my husband, but my husband ended up in a different area than I was. And some guy came up that I think he was using a drone, started hitting on me. And I felt really uncomfortable. So luckily a truck with some ladies in it that were out searching showed up and they let me get in the truck with them and they took me to another part to get away from him.
This guy have a big green suitcase that he was rolling around?
He did not. Or a little boy next to him.
Is this what you're talking about? Are you trying to lure her in by giving her some truth?
So I kind of had a feeling what she was getting ready to ask me or get more in detail of asking me. So I was trying to give her kind of that, oh, well, I did see somebody that made me uncomfortable.
So she says it may have been him, but he left with a suitcase and G was walking and took his cover.
Yes.
Did you ever ask her, what are you talking about? What is G leaving with a man and taking a cover?
I don't remember if I asked. I know that. I think I just played into everything. I don't think I asked anything specific at very many points.
Do you know who she was referring to when she said G?
Yes.
Is that Gannon?
Yes.
Scroll down, please. How do you respond to that?
I will never repeat this conversation. I promise you, I believe you. Sorry. Can I have a minute?
You all right? Yeah.
It's just that.
Let me get you some tissues.
Oh, there's some. Could you read it?
Sure. Did you say this was hours later and I told my husband this guy that creeped me out, what if he had something to do with it? Then hours later came out to help search, just to be close to the house to see what was happening. And I told him this that night before I knew any of this.
Yes.
You recall saying that?
I do, yes.
You actually think that?
No.
Why'd you tell her this?
Again, just to keep her going. Yeah, I'm okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm okay.
We can go down to the next one, please. Now, did she actually send you a picture during this conversation?
Yes.
And what is that picture of? Do you recall?
Gannon's bed and his blanket.
Is that why you're getting emotional? Because you saw this picture coming up?
Yes.
And I apologize for that.
It's okay.
What did she talk to you about when she sent you this picture?
She said, this is the cover he left with. This is online now because it showed G back at the house with me timestamped. What if you just said you remembered something suspicious after seeing this picture and explained the description and you didn't think was relevant until now because the kid had the same cover? I swear to you, I didn't do this. I just need help with someone getting this out there so they can start posting in other states.
Do you know how Gannon was found?
I do, yes.
Know that he was found in a suitcase?
I do, yes.
How did you respond to this?
That's a possibility. Do you remember around what time it was?
And what did she say?
After police left, so it was last night, maybe one or so. I didn't know he was still there until police had left. And on some people were out searching, he could have blended right in.
We can scroll down, please. Did she also go on to say, especially if cars were around in the area, they had to get in a car at some point?
Yes.
Did you see anybody, kids getting in a car while you're out searching?
Not kids in this aspect, no.
Like when you're out searching,
Yes.
is that all over the post? Is
Yes.
pictures of Gannon?
I think that I also clicked on her Facebook and looked him up too.
So you respond, yeah, there was a lot of cars and people everywhere.
Yes.
Is that true?
Yes. Well, not a lot of cars. There was a few cars, a lot of people though.
And then what did she say next at 11:11 a.m. on the 19th?
I wouldn't ask this if I didn't want to find our son. I'm cornered because of no ring activity.
Did you know what she meant by that?
Yes.
And what did that mean to you when she says that?
Just there was no footage of him leaving or any man walking out with a suitcase and a blanket and a little boy.
So no footage of that on the internet posted on Facebook pages?
No, and none on anybody's rings.
We can scroll down, please. Looks like you asked a couple questions here. Could you go ahead and read that for the jury?
Yes. So this was before the cops searched the house. So he was making Gannon hide with him and be quiet. That's not only scary, but also really sick. Do you remember? I think it's supposed to say what he looks like. Tall, short, skinny, fat. So I can think of a way to say it when they ask details.
Why are you saying that?
To play along. Keep her going.
Do you want her to think that you're going to come up with this story and tell the police about what she's asking you to say?
I wanted her to believe this, yes.
What did you say next?
So I was in the field by your house from about 12 to 2 and could see your house most of the time. So now I need to think really hard about this because I saw a lot of people out and now I'm wondering if I could have seen anything. It was freezing cold and we were exhausted, but there were so many people out there.
How did she respond to that?
Yes, he's Hispanic, shorter, 5'7" or 5'8", about 175 pounds. He has like either a tattoo or something on his face, maybe teardrop or something like that, but a marking. He had on a jacket. I don't remember the color, but Gannon left with him in that cover, so that stuck out to you when you seen it online. Just recently. Yes, he stayed in the house while they were there, but I didn't know until later. But he took suitcase with them. Beware, I saw him laid it up before he hit me in the head because I'm sure he loaded the suitcase in the car and put Gannon in somehow.
Then how did you respond to that?
I wish I could remember that night better. like a car in front of your house or close, because I parked on your street a few houses down to get out and search the field.
And then when she says, at this point, I just need the main info out there. Again, I only ask because it's our child. They're looking in all the wrong places. Driving me crazy. All her saying that?
I do, yes.
Is she leading up to something? I know we're going to get to this question she's going to ask you down the road, but at the time that you see this text come across, are you anticipating her asking you to do something?
Yes.
Go to the next page, please. She says, most people want to always help, but I know this is tricky. I mean, if it's money or whatever, name it. I want them searching the right way.
Yes.
What'd you take from that?
That she's getting ready to ask me to do something and offer money for it.
And how did you respond to that?
I want to help, anything to find Gannon. My daughter knows him, and this is destroying her. And I feel broken now that I've been searching and doing what I can. And I met Lena, and that made me break down. So I am about to meet with my dad to help him put together a chair. He just got a new house. He is nosy when I'm on my way on my phone, so I only want to message when he isn't next to me. So if I'm slow to reply, that's why. I don't want anyone knowing I'm talking to you because then people get nosy. And like I said, anything we talk about is between us.
Okay. And you go on to say, I'm not even telling my husband, right?
Correct, yes.
And you can scroll down, please. He says, okay, I think that's best. You think you could do it? Let me know what you need. Gannon is who I want home. And they can turn their searches the right way. Then they could call me back in and take me seriously.
Yes.
And how did you respond to that at 11:39?
I am going to see if my first post is still up from that night, because that will prove that I was right by your house at that exact time and will help. And no, you don't need to give me anything. I just want to help get him home,
Why did you say that?
just to keep her going. And I don't recall at this point, I might have already been in touch with law enforcement.
What do you mean by that?
I reached out. I think there was a number that we could call if we had any information, but I had reached out and they ended up having me sit down with a guy from the FBI. I think it happened around this time I don't remember though. But yeah, I met with the FBI and they kind of gave me some things to go along with as well.
Do that during this conversation, or did you make a call and keep the conversation going?
I think I made a call and then kept the conversation going.
Because what do you say at 11:39 and then she responds at 11:40?
Okay, I could help with that to say, or with what to say, and yes, I will. You guys need some help too. I'm desperate to find G.
Well, it sounds like that you guys are having pretty constant conversation based on the timestamps on here, at least within a minute of each other.
Yes.
Was that accurate?
Yes.
And she says, I'm desperate to find G. And then how did you respond to that?
You passed the polygraph, so why don't they start listening to you? I don't get it. They're dumb, and I know you passed it because they posted that you did.
Probably know what I'm going to ask now. How did you know that she took a polygraph and passed it if she did in fact do that?
Well, she had told me she was taking a polygraph, but it was posted online.
And again, with these on these pages that were support the defendant type pages?
Yes.
We can scroll down, please. And how did she respond to your polygraph question?
Well, I wanted this, and then when they call me back in, I will take that. Then they will listen. I will take a witness too. So they say, let's call me back in, and then I think they will refocus on search and search differently. And then I will take results then. The police can keep you anonymous to the public.
Now, on February 19th, were you familiar where law enforcement were searching for Gannon's body?
I think so, yes.
Where was that?
Like Palmer Lake or somewhere.
So did you know that as she's talking about them searching in the right place? Was the media running stories that they're searching for Gannon in the Palmer Lake area?
Yes, if I recall correctly, I think this is when they were searching the Palmer Lake area and they had put like wall barrier type things up so people couldn't see that. So there was a lot of people posting speculation and it was all over the media.
If we can scroll down, please. You say looking for my first post now, and then how does she respond?
Okay, even if you could just call Albert and tell him first, he would keep you anonymous, except to the police. Besides, it's for Gannon. I can't stop at anything to get them to refocus and find who that was.
So what were you thinking she's asking you to do when she says, call Albert?
She wanted me, in my opinion, she wanted me to call him and tell him that I
Object to speculation again.
Yeah, sustained.
What were you thinking?
Sorry.
Okay? I know we're
Sorry.
talking about what you thought she was thinking.
Yeah.
But what were you thinking when she says, I want you to call Albert?
I was thinking I was supposed to call Albert and tell him that I saw a man leaving the house with a suitcase and Gannon in a blanket and give a description of a man.
Okay. And do you know Albert Stauch to be the same person who's seated right over here?
I do, yes.
Front row?
Yes.
Had you met him during this process at, again, these events for Gannon?
I think I met him once, but I definitely saw him a lot. Yeah.
He was on the news as well?
Yes.
If we can go scroll down, please. So you say found it, and what are you referring to when you say found it?
I found the first post I had made.
Scroll down, please. And was that the end of your conversation with Ms. Stauch on February 19th, 2020?
That was the end of getting communication back. I had sent one more message on a different page at one point, but yes, that was it.
And she didn't respond to that?
No, she did not.
And then, what do we see here on the second to last page of that exhibit, page 34? Is this a different phone or a different app that you're using to communicate with someone named Harley Hunt?
No, it's Facebook, but now I'm using my, it's Facebook Messenger, but I'm now using my account as well.
So why did you reach out to Harley Hunt?
Let me can read it.
We can get this some context. Do you remember when you reached out to Harley Hunt based on what you said there?
I think this is actually the night, on the 27th. This was the message that I sent. I got that response and that's when I got blocked.
So you're reaching out to Harley Hunt, why?
Trying to figure out where we should be searching.
You also reach out to Ms. Stauch about the same time.
I did. Well, I wasn't sure what account she was using because she had contacted me previously on the Harley Hunt account.
Okay.
So I initially did that, but then yes, I also tried her account as well.
And then the last page, if we can go to the last page of People's Exhibit 233. This is a text message with you and your husband. And I really want to just talk about, why did you tell your husband she wants me to lie and say I saw Gannon leave in a car with a man?
Because that's what she wanted me to do.
And is that when you went to the sheriff's office and had an interview with detectives about what we just went through?
Yes.
And you turned your phone over and let them have everything on your phone?
Yes.
No more questions, Your Honor. Thanks.
Cross-examination, Mr. Cook.
I approach and receive retrieve the exhibit.
First?
Yes.
Yes.
So it looks like, Miss. By the way, good afternoon. I'm Will Cook and I represent Miss Stauch. It looks like all the information and the text messages we went over, except for the last two, it all took place on a Wednesday from 10 a.m. in the morning to about 11:48.
Sounds about right, yes.
Okay, so all this happened in a span of less than 2 hours, this back and forth.
I think so, yes.
Okay. And did you know her, not by Leticia, but you knew her by T-E-E?
I mean, I don't know that I necessarily knew her by anything at that point.
Okay. And can I approach the witness again?
You may.
So, Ms. Mobley, it looks like all of the information, the text between you and Ms. Stauch you talked about, it looks like it has a specific person, Barbie girl, a green background. And then the last text you show between you and your husband, it's listed as my love. It's got the green background. One with Harley Hunt, it doesn't have that listed up there. Was this was in fact like a Facebook community post that you put out?
I
And
think
Harley Hunt just happened to respond to the Bain community post, correct?
you might be right. I can't, that might just be a post, yes.
Okay.
I know this is definitely 100% Facebook.
Okay. But you see here when your post where you're talking about was just out walking the house for 2 hours. 3 weeks ago, it says like or reply. Then it has Harley Hunt 3 weeks ago saying thank you so much, like or reply.
Yes.
That's a community post you were making, correct?
Yeah,
And
probably.
he
Yeah.
responded to a community post, correct?
Yes.
This wasn't just a text message just between you and Harley.
Yes. So you are correct. I was wrong on that earlier.
Okay,
Yes.
that's fine. I think that's all I have, Your Honor.
Redirect.
No, thanks, Your Honor.
Do any of the jurors have any questions for Ms. Mobley? No? All right. Thank you, ma'am. You may step down.
Thank
Just
you.
watch your step. Counsel approach, please. You all know what I was talking with the lawyers about, don't you? We're going to take a little bit of an early break and send you on your way for the weekend. Again, I'm going to read this instruction in its entirety again, even though you've heard it because we're going to have a break over the weekend, and it's a lengthy break. You have probably already guessed that there has been some public or media interest in this case. There could be more in the coming weeks. You must guard against that, as you will be required to decide this case based on the evidence presented and the instructions I give to you. Again, you can tell your friends and family that you are on this jury and how long you think it will go. You can ask for their help in avoiding exposure to stories or even opinions from others regarding this case, but you cannot otherwise discuss anything about this case with anyone, and you should not listen to any opinions regarding this case from anyone else. If someone asks you why, just tell them that the judge told you that's the way it needs to be. You can still blog or communicate with others, just not about this case. You can't do any blogging about your jury experience or communication with other jurors. You can still watch TV. You can still go on the internet. You can still patronize Amazon. But if anything regarding this case comes through your feed, change the channel, turn the page, do not give it any attention. You are not allowed to look at, read, consult, or use any material of any kind, including any newspapers, magazines, television, and radio broadcasts, dictionaries, medical, scientific, technical, religious, or law books or materials, or the internet in connection with your jury service. I want to emphasize that you must not seek or receive any information about this case from the internet, which includes all social networking, Google, Wikipedia blogs, and any other website. You're not allowed to do any research of any kind about this case or this kind of case. I think it's supposed to be a nice weekend. Enjoy the nice weekend. Hopefully sunny. You can get out and enjoy the sun some, and someplace that may have windows. So in any event, we will see you where you need to be, where you normally are in the morning on Monday morning, and be in place so that we can call the case at 9 o'clock. All rise for the jury, please. Thank you. You may all be seated. Record should reflect the jury has left the courtroom. I'm just standing because I need to stretch my legs. So we will, as I understand it, we have the coroner from Florida first thing on Monday morning.
Assuming that no flight delays or anything like that, but yes.
And how long do you think he'll take?
I would say it'll be fairly similar to a little bit longer than Kelly Smith from this morning. A bunch of photos that we'll talk about and description of injuries. I would guess maybe hour of direct.
Okay. All right. All right. And is there anything else that we address at this point in time? Well, let me have you think about this over the weekend. Back to juror question number 1. I have observed the defendant mouthing occasional words or physical gestures like agreeing or disagreeing. Do we ignore this behavior? I have 2 options for you. One is we do nothing and don't answer that question. Or number 2 is the only evidence that you may properly consider to decide the issues in this case comes from the witness stand.
I would say.
Something along those lines.
I looked up and I know the case started with B, the first one that the court cited that referenced Reagan's. That seems to indicate observations with the defendant are something. Considering the confrontation clause, so my request.
Go ahead.
would be to say nothing.
Well, here's, I'm sorry.
We would agree with that.
Yeah, here's the concern that I have. The case law is not entirely crystal clear on this subject. Surprising. But the the biggest concern that I have is a case called People versus Garcia, which I do not have a Pacific site. I have a Westlaw site. It's 2022 Westlaw 178-39866. And here's the concern that I have. It talks about how, first of all, it sort of backtracks a little bit from what Judge Kennedy's concurrence was in the Riggins case. Because it actually refers to Riggins and says, and Judge Kennedy's language, and it says, in support of the proposition that a defendant's right to confront witnesses also includes the right to have the jury observe the defendant's demeanor, the division cited only Justice Kennedy's concurring opinion. Then it goes on to say the accuracy of this proposition is debatable. And it goes on to say some other things. What is absolutely 100% crystal clear is that the prosecution, and I know we haven't gotten there, so I don't mean this in a disparaging way, I'm just saying this for purposes of analysis. The prosecution at closing argument would not be able to say, did you see the defendant acting the way that I saw? Did you see what I saw? You can't do that because that puts you in a position of attestation for the defendant's actions, which is improper. And these cases, especially Garcia, says that. The other cases, I think it's the Boykins case, People versus Walters, 148 Pacific 3rd, 331 Colorado Appellate 2006, indicates that it is okay to comment on the defendant's actions at counsel table, but that was in a situation where the defendant testified. And the biggest concern that I have in all of this and the way that it is phrased is that commenting on the defendant's actions at counsel table, depending on the circumstances, may run afoul of commenting on the defendant's right to remain silent. Because if you say anything about what she's done or anything like that, and she's not taken the witness stand, you can't do that because her credibility here isn't at issue, but it is up there. But she hasn't taken the stand up there. And you clearly can't comment on her right to remain silent. And of course, we're not there. Don't know whether we ever will be, whether she will testify or not. But obviously, if she doesn't, there's real concerns that any instruction may run afoul of some constitutional rights. So I think I'm just not going to answer that question. I'm just not going to. What's your position?
That is our position, Your Honor, for that
Okay.
very reason. I think it's just going to add more and
Yeah.
to that fact. If you answer the question, we just leave it alone.
Yeah, I'm just
It's
not.
probably the
I'm
best thing.
I'm just not going to give him an answer at all. Mr. Tillington.
That would
Okay.
be my preference. I mean,
All right.
if there-
Okay.
Comments on her demeanor in closing, then I probably object.
Right. And obviously, you know, it makes, I think the prosecution, if she testifies, obviously they can comment on demeanor on the witness stand. It's also proper for either side to comment on demeanor as contained in a videotape, which I'm sure we're going to see at some point in time. And so it's proper to comment on that, but I sure don't want the jury to get confused between commenting on the demeanor in a videotape or on the witness stand and what a juror may be observing otherwise. So I'm just not going to answer the question, and we'll leave it at that.
That's good. Thanks.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Court will be in recess then.
All right, so that is it for the first week of Leticia's trial. I can recap real quick. After lunch, the first witness was Janine Sanchez, and Janine worked with Harley at Massage Envy. She testified that she last saw Harley on January 29th, I believe, and at that time, Harley was acting frantic. She was crying. She just was not her usual bubbly self. And then Janine was also with Harley. Now, they weren't friends. They just worked together and they sometimes attended Bible school together. They had each other's phone numbers, but they didn't hang out outside of work. And Janine had never met Leticia. So for some reason, she was with Harley when Harley went to pick Leticia up at the hospital that day. Detectives were there, and Leticia basically bounced from the hospital. So Janine was with Harley then. And when they went to pick Leticia up, she said that Harley was acting normal and that she didn't change when Leticia got into the car, but she did act kind of timid and quieter than normal. She said that when Leticia got in the car, she seemed to act normal, but that she joked, saying, "I hope you don't think we're a bunch of murderers," which that's just creepy, weird. Especially she's saying this to her daughter's friend she's never met. She said that Leticia took Harley's phone from like the front seat console and she started texting on it. But at some point, Janine received a text from Harley's phone that said, "Can my mom stay as well?" So I'm assuming at this point, Harley must have had her phone back. But they were all in the car when Janine got this text asking if Leticia could stay at her house as well. And Harley had already asked if she herself could stay there. So Janine did allow both Leticia and Harley to stay the night at her house. She said they didn't have much communication. They basically, went home and went to bed. Leticia told them that she was going to turn off location services because she had to. And she also said while at the hospital, Leticia talked about how she thinks they found evidence on her. And then the second witness had a lot of information. Her name was Nicole Mobley, and I actually remember Nicole in some of the Facebook groups. I believe Nicole actually might have started one of them. She lives in Lorson Ranch, and in December of 2019, Nicole had made a Facebook post needing kid clothes for, I think it was her niece or something. And Harley responded, and she responded through Facebook Messenger. So Nicole was expecting Harley to show up with these clothes, and she was just supposed to drop them off at the front door and leave. Well, when the clothes got dropped off, it was actually Leticia that came. And instead of just setting them at the front door, Leticia actually knocked on the door. And she said they had a weird conversation. Like T was talking to Nicole like they were best friends. Nicole said it was awkward. Then on Christmas Day, Leticia sent a message saying that she was going to be going on an airline work trip and that she wanted to know if Nicole's teenager niece wanted to house sit and hang out with Harley. Right, Deanna? So she asked if Nicole's teenage niece wanted to house sit and hang out with Harley, but like they didn't even know each other. It's just strange. When Gannon went missing, Nicole found out through a Facebook post, and she actually went out to help search that evening that he went missing, and she searched till, she said, around 2 to 3 a.m. And the night that Gannon went missing, Nicole Facebook messaged Leticia and like asked her, about places to search and stuff, and Leticia blocked her. So the night he went missing, Leticia blocked her. She also messaged her on a different Facebook page from a fake account that she created because she said she wanted to get Leticia to start talking. And they did communicate. And on February 19th, 2020, Leticia asked her to download a texting app so that they would have more privacy in their conversations. I mean, red flag. If one of my friends said that, I'd be a little concerned about what was going on for sure. So then Some of those texts on February 19th, Leticia texted Nicole, and in the text app they used, Leticia went by the name of Barbie Girl. Barbie Girl. And she wanted to be sure that she could trust Nicole. So basically, Nicole says she was trying to gain Leticia's trust so that she would open up to her and tell her, you know, what happened to Gannon or what was going on. She told Nicole that someone was in the house when they got home and that she thought that Gannon was being defiant and that she had blacked out. She said she was starting to think that the guy that was in the home when she got there, that he came back. And she said that he popped up with Gannon, that he took the suitcase and Gannon, and then he hit her across the head. And so she blacked out. She also said, if I was the killer, they would have found it by now, which Nicole said she found, you know, pretty strange. Because at that point, Nicole said nothing had ever been mentioned about Gannon being killed. And Leticia was trying to lead it on as though that guy was in the house and he came back and he stole Gannon right out from underneath her. Leticia also told Nicole that she needed a witness to the guy leaving because all the evidence or, you know, everything was like pushing her into a corner because there was no Ring doorbell footage in that area. So it was like everything was pointing towards her. So she said she needed a witness to the guy leaving and she would do anything for one. And she said the reasoning was because she wanted them to expand the search area. And during one conversation, Leticia sent Nicole the picture of Gannon in bed. And at this point in her testimony, Nicole broke down crying. And then at one point, Leticia was also willing to pay Nicole for her to say she saw a man walk out of the house with Gannon. And so Nicole did turn everything over to law enforcement. And if you have ever followed the Summer Wells case, this just reminds me of how many people are going to be sitting on the stand one day if, you know, there's ever conviction that would lean in direction of Dawn and Candace or ever a you know, court trial. Not saying I think they're guilty or not. So anyway, court is adjourned for the weekend and they will return Monday morning. And I will be back Monday. I hope you all have a wonderful, wonderful Easter. And I hope to see you back on Monday. Thank you so much for hanging out for this morning, this afternoon, all of it. I appreciate it. And I will see you guys Monday morning. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.